Additional Secretary Mighty. Now we would like to welcome Director General STPI, Sri Arvind Kumarji. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome Honorable Minister of State Sri Rajiv Chandrasekharji and all other members who have joined here and who are also joined through virtual conference as well. So, yeah, we have it there, sir. And so we have a consultation on National Data Center and Cloud Policy today, and we'd like to welcome you all. And we'll be actually, we are actually seeking inputs from you guys to help us formulate a better policy and a policy which has a vision to it. So thank you all. Now I would request DGSTPI, Arvindji, please, if you can welcome the audience.
Good morning. Namaskar. Honorable Minister for Electronics, Information Technology and Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Sri Rajiv Chandrasekharji. Additional Secretary to Government of India in Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Dr. Rajendra Kumarji. Joint Secretary to Government of India in Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Sri Amtesh Kumar Sinha ji. Senior Director in Ministry of Information Technology, Srimati Uma Chauhan ji. Experts on the subject, representative from media, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and privilege to welcome Sir on this issue on National Data Center and Cloud Policy, discussion on this very important subject. I am delighted to welcome all participants, experts, industry leader for this discussion. This subject is very important as government's intent is very loud and clear that we want technology-enabled society. For enabling or making technology-enabled society, whatever is required, center of that could be data center, whether you talk in terms of e-commerce, digital transactions, financial transactions, promotion in IT, ITS services. For everything, data center is a pivotal center for development of technology. As we said, we are going to have 10 years for technology. It's called TechEd. I think data center is one of the most important thing for this technology development. Therefore, there is a lot of demand for such projects. And government is also very keen to ensure there is a sufficient supply. And I'm very happy to inform, you must be aware that government has already announced in the recent budget, data center as an infrastructure service, which will ensure financial requirement of the businesses who wants to bring this into their business. I am sure today's discussion will give some new dimensions to this subject, will provide some new inputs which will be helpful for framing policy and deliberation on this subject by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. I will conclude by again welcoming our Honorable Minister. And I assure that you will have all support from STPI side, from my side, or one of my center is in Chennai. Head of center, Mr. Sanjay Tyagi, Dr. Sanjay Tyagi is already there. If you need any help during this discussion, we all for you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now it requires Dr. Rajan.
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். மாண்புமிகு மத்திய அரசின் US அவர்களே, என்னுடைய கொலீக்ஸ் on the dais, Amitesh, DGSTPI Senior Director அவர்களே, இங்கே வருகை தந்துள்ள பார்ட்டிசிபென்ட்ஸ் அவர்களே, அனைவருக்கும் என்னுடைய காலை வணக்கம். We have gathered here for a very important initiative of Government of India, as you would already be knowing. This is to obtain feedback, suggestions on the proposed national data center policy. We will also discuss the scheme policy. There is a presentation on the policy after the initial inaugural addresses. So I will not go into details of the policy. Let me just try to set the context, build the context as to why we think this is very important for the digital economy of India in the coming years. As you would already be knowing, the Digital India program of the Government of India was launched in 2015, and that is the broad umbrella program within which all the digital interventions, all the digital initiatives are now being implemented. And METI is the implementing and coordinating department for this entire Digital India program. There have been very remarkable achievements under this program in the last several years. Again, I will not go into details of those programs, but one of the key areas where I think we have really been able to achieve world-class outcomes is in terms of building the technology platforms that are now enabling all the government departments and even the private sector to really quickly develop and launch applications on a scale. The vision for the next 4 to 5 years of the government is to focus on digital transformation of our economy. And as you would be aware, METI had unveiled the $1 trillion digital economy vision in 2019, where the goal was set to achieve the digital economy of the size of at least $1 trillion by 2025. There are some very key elements of that vision, which I would just like to mention here briefly, so that we can understand the importance of why we are conducting this consultation today here. One of the key pillars of this vision is to ensure that every part of the country, every nook and corner, has high quality digital infrastructure. And that consists of providing connectivity to everyone, ensuring that we lay out the best class networks, provide the best class connectivity to everyone. The IT infrastructure also consists of data centers, where currently, just to give you some broad context, currently we are not really a significant player at the global level. The current capacity in India, in terms of the existing data centers, is just about 500 megawatt, which is less than what our tiny neighbor like Singapore has. And even with the increased activities that we are seeing in this space now, the capacity perhaps can go up to only about 1,000 megawatt in the next 4 to 5 years. The goal that we have set, what METI would like to achieve, is to have at least incremental capacity addition of 2,000 megawatt in the next 5 years. That's the goal that we have set. That's almost a 5-fold jump from where we are today in the next 5 years. And that's the vision that we have for transforming the entire data center and cloud domain in India. As we're all aware, the digital adoption is growing by leaps and bounds. And in the new normal post-pandemic, we believe that this is going to be there for years to come. And it is for us, for India, to take advantage of this entire new normal that we are seeing of much greater digital adoption in all activities that we have in all parts of our personal lives, professional lives, working lives. So this is the right time that we take initiatives which can have impact at global scale and make India the global hub for all digital technologies. And of course, with our capabilities in software and our ecosystem that is emerging in electronics manufacturing, etc., there is no reason to believe that we cannot achieve this. And this scale transformation in areas I mentioned will really help us to achieve that vision of reaching or crossing $1 trillion in digital economy in the next 4 to 5 years. Just to mention a few more points, just so as to give an idea as to what efforts are required to achieve this transformation. The current size of digital economy is about $200 billion. And when we talk about 1 trillion, then in the next 5 years, we are visualizing that we can grow 5 times. And that involves a massive transformation, which has to be digitally led through digital interventions. In this endeavor, again, I mentioned about the platforms. We have done quite a bit of work in building platforms from the current approach of applications. So focusing on platforms is another area where we think we can really achieve a scale transformation. And we already have examples. We have the world's best digital ID platform, that is Aadhaar. We have the world's best in real-time payments interface, that is UPI. We have now government e-marketplace. We have the world's best COVID platform, network. So all these initiatives of which like this in job platforms I mentioned, they are all population is nothing like this anywhere. That gives us the hope, confidence that we $1 trillion target, not really something that we cannot achieve. Third area where we think is extremely important is in again at something that is going at a very best patients in that domain, deploy them in the domains in both in the sector and achieve already made initiatives in areas like AI, blockchain, manufacturing, IoT, 5G. So everything that you can think about in the digital domain, it has deep in that. And we think that with the collaboration with all the private partners, with the state governments, we can really achieve wonders when we talk about digitally transforming our economy and society, and of course, governance. Another area where we think we need to really build a world-class framework is in terms of digital laws and capacity building to really ensure that all the government departments understand
आपको
the
दिख रहा है जितेंद्र सर?
totally comprehensive digital law in this domain. Might be aware about the personal data protection bill, which is now at an advanced stage of consideration. That's one area where we think if we can really bring a world-class law, world-class legal framework, then give rise to an innovation and data-driven economy. And that's another driver when we talk about achieving the vision of $1 trillion digital economy in the next 5 years. And the domain where MeitY has a lot of work and where again we have put in a lot of focus is in terms of cybersecurity. India, just for information of everyone, was ranked last year at number 10 in the world. We are the 10th best nation in the world in terms of Global Cybersecurity Index, which is published by UNITU. And this is a jump of 37 places from the year before. We were ranked 47, we have come up to 10. And this is one of the very few domains where I can say with confidence that India is ranked 10th internationally. And this again shows the efforts that MeitY has put in ensuring that we can meet the emerging threat scenarios in cybersecurity and not only address them in a reactive fashion, but we should be able to proactively meet these emerging threats and neutralize them. So that's another area where we have worked very closely with the private sector, with the other government departments, with the state governments, to ensure that we can be amongst the best in the world in cybersecurity. So these are the key pillars on which we think the vision of $1 trillion digital economy rests in the coming years. And this initiative, today's consultation, is a part of that broader vision to ensure that we work with all the stakeholders to improve our
ecosystem, whether it is data protection law, whether it is the new digital legal jurisprudence that we will evolve, or it is the national data center or cloud policy. The idea is here that is, and it's an idea given to us by our Honorable Prime Minister, that we are making policy for our stakeholders, and it is very important that stakeholders' views and aspirations are embedded deeply in policy. I just wanted to explain that as a reason for our meeting today, so that you understand that you are the most important people in this public consultation format. Dr. Rajendra Kumar has talked to you extensively about the Digital India background to this national data center policy. Let me just give you my little perspective. And as somebody who spent a few years in technology, I think I have some ideas of where technology and the ecosystem is going in the next few years. Look, you are aware, we are aware, all of us are aware that India is one of the preeminent countries in the deployment of technology for transforming governance, for empowering citizens, and in a lot of ways strengthening democracy. So that is not an obvious outcome of technology, because we tend to talk about technology in terms of entrepreneurship and businesses. But we have become a preeminent nation in terms of deploying technology to transform and change governance and government. We have also created, obviously, a tremendous runway and momentum of entrepreneurship and startups, as you have seen in the last few years. We are clearly on way to becoming the world's preeminent startup and innovation ecosystem. In the backdrop of all this, there is this phenomenon that is underway, which is the increased and accelerated pace of digitization of government. And so, as you know, and Dr. Rajendra Kumar mentioned a few platforms, but increasingly over the next few years, you will find both the state government and the central government almost near 100% of public services and public goods will be digitized. So the relationship between governments, whether they are state, center, municipal, panchayat, we can assume that the digitization of that interface will be even more accelerated and far more deeper. Prime Minister Modi in this budget 22 has accelerated that Digital India vision. So if you see the budget, there is almost a continuing signature and a continuing thread through the budget that India is heavily invested in and is heavily focused on the technology enablement opportunity that is now in the post-COVID world, a huge reality around the world as governments, businesses, and consumers digitize. So having said all this, two things become very important. One is the connectivity infrastructure and the other is the storage infrastructure. And so these are two parts that are almost fundamental to making this, to realizing this vision of India and the Digital India in the next 5 years. The connectivity piece, as you know, the Government of India and state governments are cooperating on the BharatNet project. It is the world's largest rural broadband connectivity project. And in the private space, with 5G imminent, and wireless broadband will continue to grow and be the pathfinder in terms of connectivity. On the storage side, and that is the reason we are sitting here today, there are two elements of that. One is the capacity piece, which is the data centers piece, and that we are going to discuss today. The other is the cloud innovation piece, which is that we need in India not just more and more capacity for data centers, we also need more and more cloud innovators and India-centric, India IP cloud technologies for the future. I just want to leave these two thoughts with you as we embark on this consultation. I want to also leave this thought that this is not the last time we will engage on this. I would welcome your continued participation till the policy is enacted and the policy becomes policy. It remains a thought to the policy. I've always said that even when I was an entrepreneur. So I think I leave now this to Amitesh to present what the policy is as we have conceived it, and then look forward to your participation and your views. Thank you so much for being here this morning again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So this is industry consultation on national data center and cloud policy. And the stakeholders here today present are all data center developers, data cloud providers, network solution providers. Then we have different startup ecosystem also present here, who are the users of cloud services, and they are also contributing in development of various products, innovative products that Honorable Minister has just mentioned. And then we have representative from associations like NASCOM and ASSOCHAM, Startup Mission also. And we have a Principal Secretary IT of states like Tamilnadu, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Kerala, and Karnataka. They have joined online, and Principal Secretary IT will come here and join. So we have whole all the participants which is required for making this policy, and the stakeholders are all here. We want to discuss you about this policy and a scheme also, because we thought that a policy will probably give a broad guidelines, but if it needs some impetus from government side, then we should also come with a scheme. So first of all, I will discuss national data center and cloud policy. So I'll touch a little bit the background because Honorable Minister of the State and Additional Secretary already said the context of today's meeting. So we have seen the commendable digital forms, and now we are going for approaching whole of government approach where all services will be provided through digital mode, and we will be able to reach all citizens through different connectivity methods. Services will be provided in assisted modes also, so that those persons who don't have any digital system with them, they can also access these services. So this will increase the requirement of digital data which will be generated through these services, because they are all population scale services. This economic size, as I already mentioned, that it will grow to industry from 200 billion to over 1 trillion by 2025-26. And this will happen with a CAGR of 24.1% that we understand. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So, back. Thank you. So we started with consultation in 2020, and we got a lot of feedback from lots of players. And we tried to understand their difficulties, and we have listed out each of them here. The first difficulty is from getting clearances, because every state has different policy. Data center has not been recognized as a separate sector. So it comes under commercial sectors, or comes under industry sector, and different states have different policies. So even if they are able to establish or set up a data center in one state, again they have to win the next state. So this is a problem. We have looked at this. Then high cost of power and sustainability is a big issue. In India, the cost of power is slightly higher because of various reasons. And sustainability is an issue where India has committed and to well forum that we will achieve 500 megawatt of renewable energy by 2030. So that on that part, the progress of our country is very good, and we are well set to achieve such targets. So sustainability is required because power centers are all energy drivers. And if we use less energy for operation of data center, and if you use renewable energy for operation of data center, then this issue can be resolved. Absence of building norms specific to data center is a big issue. A lot of clearances are required for building, setting a building, data center building. And Again, because of no standard policy followed on this, and this is creating a problem. We understood that almost 60 to 65 types of clearances are required for setting up a data center. So we try to address those things in our policy. We have almost 80 to 85% items which is required for setting up a data center is coming through imports. And we are heavily dependent. And because of supply chain disruptions that we have seen during the pandemic, we will face our will not become Atmanirbhar in such kind of activities. So that is again an area. Then the solution, which Honorable Minister has said, that we have to develop our own India solutions, and we have to do a lot more on that front also. This requires the data center requires huge investment, and I think this is a very good initiative that in this budget, infrastructure status has been granted, so I will be able to access loans at affordable rate. So this will again give a boost to data center. Next. So our vision is to make India global hub of energy data centers and cloud services. So as I said that we have close to 500 megawatt of IT data centers in India, and we want to grow exponentially. So our target is to add 2,000 megawatt capacity in next 5 years. And we want to not only serve the data requirement, data storage requirement of India, but we also want to serve the requirement of other neighboring states and other countries also. And in this process, we are very mindful that indigenous equipment and software IT products are used more and more in order to reduce our dependence on imports. And this will also provide a safe and trusted infrastructure that is very much required because of the data privacy concerns. So our objective that we are covering in our national data center and cloud policy is to accelerate the growth of data center and cloud services in the country. Second, to encourage the usage of indigenous equipment and IT products. Third is promotion of R&D, innovation and capacity building. And fourth one is to facilitate setting up energy efficient, sustainable and green data center. I will touch all these points one by one. So when we are looking for setting the growth of data center and cloud services in the country, we are focusing on a different role of central government and state government. The central government has already announced that data center will be included in the harmonized list of infrastructure. And then we are working from maybe we are working with central government organizations, coming up with a national building code, a chapter, separate chapter in national building code, which will also help other states to align their policies if they think that these codes can be applicable in the states also. So we are working on that, and very soon we will be issuing some guidelines on that. We are in active conversation with Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and other stakeholders. From the state government side, since 60 to 65 clearances are required, so state government has to come up with the policies, and I'm interacting with few state governments. They are also addressing this issue by providing single window clearance. So our clear request is a mechanism where a single window clearance can be provided for all the clearances that is required. And the approval process should be linked with the state government to publish SLAs, so that the developers are aware about what are the timelines and what are the terms and conditions before setting a data center. When in order to cut in the timelines, because roughly 18 months to 24 months are required for setting up a data center, if there is a provision for in-provision BC paths, where the clearances are already provided and the data center developer has already set up a full ecosystem where on a plug-and-play basis IT operators can come and set up their cloud services. That will be very helpful, and that will cut the time that is required for setting a data center. And this is very much required because we want to accelerate capacity in our country. And then we are requesting state governments also to come up with their own schemes and guidelines. And few states have already announced their schemes and guidelines, and others are also doing. So if you come up with a national policy, then probably this will guide them, guide the state governments also to align their policies, or we can add few new things from their side. When we talk about these things, the fiber connectivity is a very, very important thing. We have good fiber connectivity, but there is a lot more needs to be done. And here the role of Department of Communication and comes into picture. We have requested that TRI has circulated the consultation paper. So from ministry side, we have requested them not to consult on digital on this data center policy, but we have requested them to address this issue of fiber connectivity, so that dark fibers and other type of facilities are provided to data center players. And they should leverage already, that should leverage the National Digital Connection Policy 2018. And this will facilitate common service bus and utility corridors, as well as sharing of infrastructure at affordable rate also. The cost is already concerned, so that policy will address. And this is very important that check before the big transparency should put in place, because when you are going for setting up your own fiber, and there are a lot of developments happening parallelly. So we often see that the fiber cable is cut and there is disruption in supply of services. So if there is a complete transparency that fiber, then probably can take care of that. And we have also requested that international submarine cable that is coming to our country, so that outreach should be increased and more places should be connected. Next. So in order to encourage indigenous equipment and IT products for setting up data center and cloud services, we want to incentivize this particular aspect. And when I will talk about the scheme, there I will talk about how we can central government can incentivize this. But this is an area which is very much required. The country's full progress and attention is towards Atmanirbhar initiative, and everybody has to work. There the role of startups and innovators come into picture. They should develop more and more indigenous product. We have now started, we have already launched a few pre-live schemes from IT side. That's for electronics item, IT hardware, and semiconductor is also a part of that. And we hope that with the help of these pre-lives and otherwise also, lot of indigenous product will be available in the market with local value addition. We also want to develop testing and certification framework, because more and more products will be available in our country with more testing and certification framework. And we have to also develop standards, because data center are following the international standards, and there are few other standards which will be required going forward. So MIT will also publish the standards and work on that. Promotion of R&D and innovation and capacity building. We understand that a lot of open source solutions are being used for providing services, cloud services. And open source is an area where a lot of collaboration is happening. But as a full solution, nobody is able to take the benefit. Big players have developed their own systems and offering cloud services, but for small players, this is a cost, and they are making is planning to support the full ecosystem, where on the basis of open source solutions available in the market, we can provide a whole package to operate cloud services, and their R&D team will back up those systems and provide 24/7 support, so that the players are comfortable in those solutions. And in order to increase capacity, we need a lot more manpower. So capacity building and human resource development is also part of that, in which maybe organization, industry, and other stakeholders will be involved to develop that capacity building. Energy is a very important thing. Power requirement for data center is a big part of their operation and maintenance expenditure. Central government is doing a lot of taking a lot of measures for promotion of renewable energy in India. And one such initiative is ISTS waiver of 25 years that have been provided for the renewable energy plants. If such plants will be set up before June 2025. So this is available in public domain. And a data center developer can set up renewable energy plant in Rajasthan or wherever he wants and take that power to southern part or set up renewable plant in Chennai and take that power to northern India without any cost. So this is because of ISTS waiver. You can do that. It's a big help for all industry players. If you want to use renewable energy and other green initiatives, then I understand there is a problem of open access. Different states have different policies, but Ministry of Power and MNRE, they are also working on this. And obviously, advanced stage, and probably will get a very good rules on open access, which may be finalized shortly. So that will provide you time-bound clearance, open access clearance. And there are a lot of restrictions as given. You have to, some states allow you to take 50% of your consumption, some allow you for 80% consumption. But this will provide you a requirement of renewable energy as per your requirement. So if your data center of 1 megawatt is given, you need 1.5 megawatt, the full power you can draw with the help of this. And not only open access is only a solution, you can set up your own captive power plants, group captive power plants, and will do so. Again, there are a lot of relaxations given by central government ministry. There are energy markets also. So green ahead, green term ahead market, green day ahead market, there are all markets where you can meet your shortfall in case you have entered into a long-term agreement with any renewable developer. There you can also meet these shortfalls in case there is a daily fluctuation and monthly fluctuation. So that is there. And then we are also focusing on reducing power usage effectiveness, because if you use less power, then probably it serves the purpose of sustainability. So right now, industry norms is about 1.6 to 1.7. Though there are a few data center which has set up with 1.3, 1.35 also. So we want to encourage industry to adopt more measures and use more recent technologies so that the power requirement for a data center operation reduces. So that is one thing. We will incentivize something from that also, that I will discuss in the scheme part. From state government side, since quality power requirement is very much for data centers, so states should facilitate that. They should allow states to have open access. And when central government policy will also come, then they should be very request to align their policy also to that. And they can also grant distribution licenses to data center developers who are setting a large capacity. That will also solve a lot of their problem. So if we take these measures, probably the cost of power will come down. And you know that the round of energy cost has reduced significantly, and probably will be able to go for rupees 3.5 to 4 if you enter into long-term purchase power agreement with any private developer. So now I'll discuss scheme. I'll discuss already policy. And in the skill part, we will try to incentivize few things, which will encourage you to adopt those practices. Next. So we have divided beneficiaries in two parts. One is hyperscale data park developers who set up a data center. And second category is hyperscale data center operators who put their IT hardware and AI cloud services. So for these two categories, we are planning to add 2,000 megawatt IT load capacity in next 5 years. And the two provision DC parts, we have kept a minimum criteria of 5 megawatt. with ready infrastructure. And IT hardware infrastructure cloud setup in other parts will be facilitated. Next. So here is the minimum eligibility criteria. We have said that 5 megawatt will be IT criteria, and the data center should be tier 3 and rating should also be 3. And that is very minimum. You can go for tier 4 and ranking is 4 also. We have said that in our scheme, maximum PU should be 1.5. So other than that, we will not encourage because we want to encourage sustainable green data centers. So that is a limit. And the minimum investment required is 25 crore per megawatt for this capacity. And similarly for the IT operator, again the minimum load is 5 megawatt and minimum investment required is 80 crore per megawatt. The industry norms is slightly above these figures, but we have kept slightly low because we are very strong industry practices. So, if during industry consultation, if you want to say something about that you should not be 1.5, you should be 1.6 or 1.4, you can express your opinion. We have not yet fixed that thing. We have understood from open consultation that 200 crore required for setting up 1 megawatt of IT hardware. And this is the basic as per that. So we want to give incentive if you use indigenous equipment and IT softwares. So whenever you will use, you will get some incentive from from government of India side, but I will discuss in next slide. And we understand that in IT hardware side, roughly we are using 15% indigenous equipment only in India at present. 15 to 17%. In the data center side or data center setup, we are reaching roughly 60 to 65% of indigenous component. So where we are not giving any incentive to data center developers because we are incentivizing them from power and power users and some incentive for setting up data center parts. For IT operators, we are providing incentive use of indigenous IT hardware and software solutions. Roughly, the visibility which Indian electronics and IT hardware industry faces is 8.5 to 11%. And there are a scheme which provides subsidy or incentive roughly up to 3% for large electronics item and for IT hardware and 6%, up to 6% for electronics item. So this disability is slightly reduced if those schemes are available by the industry players. And few more we are targeting from this side so that this disability is completely removed or can be reduced, minimized. Next slide. So DPIT has already circulated consultation and policy guidelines on this, and they say they have classified IT or any players who are developing product on the basis of local value addition. If your local value addition from 20 to 50% were classified as class 2 and more than 50% were classified as class 1 suppliers. So we have taken a lead from that. And we have two categories. If the indigenous product, which is you are using for IT hardware or any software product that you are using for your data center operation, if that falls in these two categories, that is 20 to 50% category and other 50% category, then we will incentive or the total cost of that product. And for lower local value addition of 20 to 50%, the lower incentive will be given. And for more than 50% local valuation, more incentive will be given. So formula is very simple that whatever the cost, you can reduce product cost and you can divide from total cost it will be local valuation. The formula is very simple and is given before this circle also. And the same circle has been covered by committee guidelines also. So it is already given there. And for availing this local value incentive, you have to give some certificates, and it is given that you are the statutory auditor, tax auditor of your company should give those certificates that yes, this component has this much of local value addition. Next. So, as per scheme criteria, if you set up a data center park or facility, we will give you upfront a certain percentage of the cost. That is the first benefit. So suppose your cost is 25 crore per megawatt, you will get a certain percentage of that as incentive, you will set up that. Provided you have met the minimum eligibility criteria that we have discussed earlier. And if you use renewable energy, suppose you have used 50% of renewable energy, then you will fall in a certain bracket, and that factor will be applied on your incentive. I will explain it in detail in next slide. And then if you reduce your power user fee effectiveness, again you will incentivize more. So there will be base incentive for setting a data center park. And on that, two factors will be applied, one factor for renewable energy and one factor for reducing power user effectiveness. Next. So this is an illustrative example. Suppose we have 25 crore per megawatt investment in data center and for non-IT infrastructure. And government of India has provided certain incentive, suppose it is 3%. And you are falling into the category of 1.2 to 1.3 of P, if you have reduced your P to that extent. Let's suppose a factor of 1.5. And then if you increase the renewable energy, suppose you fall into the category of 60% to 75%, then there is a factor of 1.2. So all these factors will be applied for a 10 megawatt data center. We will get 10 megawatt into 25 crore into C percentage and multiply with these two factors. So this will be the incentive. So this is for incentivizing setting up data center. Data center. So today, the point for discussion is on different parameters that we have adopted. You can say that 1.5 it can be increased or decreased. You can see that renewable energy efficiency, we have not fixed any limit for renewable energy. And sustainability is a big problem. You know that there are many more than 340 big companies who have their RE100 target. And whenever they are approaching for onboarding on data center and cloud services, they are asking first question that whether this data center is big or not. And if your data center is not big, probably around 10% is there. So they will pay you 90% of the travel. And if we make it 100%, we will get additional 10% also. So these are the requirements of industry, and more and more players are joining this RE100 investment. So it will increase further in future. So there is a local value addition factor which I have explained. If you want to say that how industry can incentivize that, the process we have explained, whether it is suitable for you or you want a different kind of mechanism, because it is a very complex item. It looks very easy that statue or it gives a certificate. But from this side also we have to do some random checks and on some certain component also we have to check. So you have to very clearly tell that how you want to ministry incentivize you for local value addition. There are proprietary items also, which one may use for themselves and not sell to anybody. That is again an item how you can incentivize that. So one way of incentivizing is if that product can be sold to others, suddenly it will fall in this category. And if the concerned company is using it for themselves, then it's a saving of cost for them. So that is one way, but there may be some other way also. So you have to clearly give your opinion on these things, how we should operate this. List of common approvals we have taken from industry players, but still will request you that you can give a comprehensive list. Whether the approvals required post setting up data center. And what should be the percentage of RE, renewable energy? We have not mentioned anything because we understand that different states have different policy and open access is a problem right now. Maybe in future will be facilitated. So we have not kept any. If you want to say that we should keep it at 20%, 30%, 50%, we can keep that also. And other than that, we will provide incentive. That is the possibility. And any other question from your side are most welcome. So, sir, today we have more than 65 online participants, physical attendance, and more than 165 to 170 online participants. And all companies from data center, cloud, networking solution, representatives from SOCM and NASCOM, Startup Mission, all players are present here. So we will request them one by one to offer their comments, and we will certainly take it while finalizing our policy. Thank you very much. So, floor is open for discussion. So, any member who is present here, you want to express, they can share. First, we will start with data center operator, and after that, we will go to cloud providers, and then we will follow others. So, I request data center operators to kindly give their views. So I will request individual companies to give their view. I will come to ASSOCHAM and NASCOM later on. So please go ahead. Kindly introduce yourself and give your views. Yeah. Yeah, you can use this. Thank you.
This is on. So, good afternoon, Honorable Minister, and good noon, and the entire MIghty team. So it's a great opportunity, and thank you for providing this opportunity. We have interacted quite a few times in the past with regards to the national policy. And yeah. So sure, sir. So I am Gautam, and this is my colleague Vikram. We represent STT Global Data Centers India. So we are one of the largest data center operators in the country at this stage. And, we have been in the business in the country for about close to 15 to 20 years now, and what we and during the interactions, and of course today as well, the points that we'll stress on would draw upon our experience of having, the data center industry has come to a certain level. We talk about 500 megawatt of capacity. We essentially started from scratch. So there are a lot of investments on the ground from existing operators. That is something which, we find sometimes a lot of the discourse is silent on what happens to existing investments. And when we talk about benefits, when we talk about policy applicability, for operators like us, who obviously have great growth plans in the country, but also have investments to protect on the ground, we would require some sort of clarity. And that's what we seek in terms of uniform applicability of the policy, irrespective of whether it's a upcoming investment or an already existing investment on the ground. Because each data center asset has an operational lifespan of about close to 20 to 25 years. It's like our assets, the average age of existing assets would be about 5 to 6 years or 7 years, right? If we consider the new assets. So there's a long lifespan still to be had. And so the current assets, the sweating of the current asset, that should not be rendered uncompetitive, right? And that is something which we need to look at. However, with respect to the policy itself and the points noted, I believe considering the numerous rounds of consultations already done, I think this covers most cases. Our requests are I have 3 or 4 major points to make. One, while data centers have now been granted infrastructure status, we still need clarity on essential services. And this is something which we speak about as an operator. A data center is something which provides, it's 24/7 operations. And there are a lot of vagaries. They could be natural calamities and a host number of reasons which could impede data center operations, including certain seasonal policies with respect to pollution control, etc. So classification as essential services is extremely important from a practical perspective to ensure to ensure the smooth running operations. Second, sir, recently we have had across states, we have had a lot of directives which have restricted use of backup power. Now, data centers, by the very nature, are uh, are architected in a redundant manner. So, backup power, though not hardly utilized for 1% of the time of the year, it is necessary to have the backup power. And data center operators continuously face challenge. In the establishment of backup power in terms of DG sets, as well as in terms of operating them. So we need to look at some sort of exemption for the sector in terms of utilization of DG sets, and also completely recognizing that we need to sort of look at a glide path to greener alternatives. We also need to arrive at a roadmap in terms of how do we actually migrate to gas-based systems or other systems without impeding operations. And it has to be a glide path because it can't happen the very next day. Right. So apart from that, I believe while the policy covers most parts, I would request my colleague Vikram to speak on a couple of points with respect to power and with respect to compliances.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Minister, respectable Minister, and the mighty team for this opportunity. So when we talk about the infrastructure as a status versus the essential services, so we all talked about some relevant approvals. Now, if you see the time, what you have shown in the slides, that it takes 18 to 24 months to construct a data center, a decent data center. Actually, the approvals before take 8 to 9 months. Now, by virtue of the power we consume, we are by default, as per the Ministry of Environment, into a red category. It is not the requirement of the individual who is setting up a data center, it is the requirement of the industry. So first of all, that red category or the environmental clearance has to go out of this entire development of a data center piece. Anyway, the local pollution control bodies are governing in terms of the CTEs and CTOs, and we are following the National Building Code. So we strongly recommend that from the perspective of environmental clearance, which takes about 6 months, that is the biggest hurdle in today's scenario. The second is what oxygen is to hospitals, the power is to us. Even though we invest heavily in bringing up the power to our locations, no board is signing the SLAs with us. Now, if we all need to want this industry to grow and there are SLAs, then obviously the requirement of the DGs will go down. And here comes the green power. So by default, if the DGs are going down and the alternate sources are available, then the board has to pitch in terms of the commitments and the uptimes and the SLAs. We also talked about the cost. Now, today, the data center building, what we construct is the requirement of the equipment, the infrastructure which goes in. We are not having today the GST input credit on the construction of a data center, which is also a significant amount. So we also need to see on that aspect that how we are going to include that building construction as a part of data center infrastructure, because there are no input credits available. We also talked about a few other things in terms of the sustainability and the green power. But from the overall perspective, even if we set up a green power as a captive, today because of the policies, we are not allowed the banking. And even if the banking is there, we are not allowed to take that in the night time. So even after investing so much heavily on the infrastructure, those guidelines should be absolutely clear that the data center investor or the data center operator should be free to use that 24/7 rather than at a mercy of a local electricity boards where someone is controlling a transmission, someone is controlling a generation. But at the end of the day, we are the biggest loser in all this gambit. And having said that, and that's where we are investing heavily, even though you are showing the percentage of close to 65 to 70, we at STT are at 85% of the indigenous equipments. Now we are also pushing our suppliers to bring in the CKD in India because of in past 2-3 years what we have seen. So we have already on that journey. So the only request is that how we are going to, even it's a good initiative to have a single window clearance. But if we have a representative of a local IT who cuts across all those domains and can be our it's, then you will get more meaty feedbacks what is actually happening on the ground, because we are following up with 20 different departments without any SPOC, and all 20 departments are running in their own direction. So the only request is, after so much of wonderful initiative, if you can also have the SPOC at the respective state levels who can facilitate. Say, if I am putting a SWC, what is happening to SWC and those approvals? So we are clueless because we need to run into different departments. So if we have a SPOC, then we can connect with this SPOC and you can hear directly from the ground. So these are the few inputs, and we can also send the detailed, a single point of contact.
I'll just take the industry jargon. Industry jargon. Can I just so one last point that we had to make was, if as you said, this is not the end game. There will be further consultations. We would request very focused consultation so that we and the rest of the industry can actually deliver our detailed inputs with, and keeping these. I would suggest these categories. Power and green power is a separate category. Please include backup power, because backup power is something which is just not entered the discourse. Keep that as a separate category, but that's something which practically affects. And obviously, we have discussed in the past about clearances, which is very clear, and also a discourse, also a closed consultation on essential services, as well as the costing, overall costing that goes into data center. You have a lot of inputs, but maybe we may need to look at the overall value chain and see how the cost breaks up down the value chain. But we would request for these areas to be covered in separate consultations post this.
Thank you.
I want you to just be clear. There is no more detailed consultation, higher consultation. This is the consultation. So if you want to get on the train, this is the time to get on the train and give us all the detailed inputs you want. And my recommendation, because I have been in industry before, and I would suggest that you give us clear solutions. When you say old investments must be protected, we are in the tech space. There is no policy that will underwrite the viability of an investment that has been made in the face of some disruptive new technology. So nobody will give that underwriting. But if there is something in the policy that you think is reasonable vis-a-vis existing investments, make that suggestion. But if you make an omnibus statement, the answer from the ministry will be can't do. So don't leave it at that. So if there is a legitimate point that you have to make, this is the opportunity. If you can't speak it, if there's not enough time, please do write it in, send a formal email. Concerned gentlemen are here. But when we speak this time, make this consultation worth the while for you and for us. And of course, we will continue to engage with you till the policy is enacted. But when we get this opportunity, I don't think we should waste it only on high-level solidity about what should be great. I'm not criticizing you.
Sure.
I'm just trying to narrow focus of the conversation. So next.
Yeah, understood, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It is really it's a hard work done by MIT team, and policy has come out very well. So we have been part of this process from last couple of months. So holistically, policy looks very promising for all of us. So sorry, myself, Sanjay Bhutani from Adani. My bad. Sorry. So we have recently ventured into data center business with a partner from outside. And there have been a lot of discussion in terms of why other continents have been successful. So I wanted a couple of thoughts on table for all of us to know. Somebody mentioned Singapore is very successful being a tiny. So there are reasons for it. Why Singapore is successful? The cable landing from multiple continents is happening there. India still lags in terms of Mumbai and Chennai. How can we unlock that problem so that our growth, which is 400 megawatt to 2000, which becomes a reality? ultimately those things does matter to our customer, those who are globally available. So can we include some part? We have a lot of thought process. We can give it a detailed white paper on that, and which will help us to grow further beyond this policy. Second is in terms of heart of our data center is fiber. Currently, for all of us have to apply for ROW, right of way, and each state, and there are humongous money we need to invest. If government can facilitate outside it is available, common ducts which help us to pay yearly basis or some basis, which we can mutually decide, so that common infrastructure is dedicated to data center, which helps us to have a dedicated fiber, because we are a developing country. Every now and then road expansions are taking, metro trains are coming. So those also will help us. The second important part, we being a large country, sir, there is a utility network runs across the state. And there is a fiber which can run along with transmission line, which will never touch a road. If we can have that network available, we are ready to invest. We are ready to partner with government, state government or central government, so that we create infrastructure which actually differentiates India. While we say global data center hub, I think these kinds of differentiation which can help us to be different from others. Related to this policy, the implementation, which my colleague from STT said, sir, implementation in the state is the most critical aspect. I think all of us have a good intent. The implementation in terms of when this policy comes in a play, how soon it can notify all the departments to implement that. That itself at times can take time, sir. So that is something which we have to put some rule wherein after these many days, this becomes by force for us to assume this is approved. I think that will help us a little bit. Second, coming to a power, which is the most critical aspect. Currently, if you look at all the hyperscaler, they have taken a pledge every day, every month or every year, they have to be carbon neutral. While they say carbon neutral, sir, their expectation from us is it is coming in our contracts, it has to be 100%. While as a country, we have restriction, we can go 7, 8 hours, 10 hours. So I think we need to work and we have few suggestions. If battery is a solution, how can we make sure battery becomes cost efficient and we give it a power at a competent price, which people look up to India as a country. And if we talk about other countries, sir, they have a big issue in terms of power. Singapore is one example. All of us know there's a moratorium on this. So if we can work on these kind of larger aspect, it will help us to grow. Maybe whatever that number is, we can surpass those numbers as well. I'll hand over to my colleague Vinod.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Vinod Javur from Adani Connects. Okay, thanks, pleasure to be, and thanks for the Honorable Minister. I repeat what the other colleagues have been telling. I think that will continue throughout the whole group here. Having been in this data center industry from last 15 years, from 2005, I've seen one pain which continues to be the pain of what Vikram repeated. Our approval time cycle has never come down in reality. It is the same thing in 2005 and it is same thing in 2022. We give different names to it. We give single window clearance, we give something else. But reality on the ground, it takes minimum 6 months to break the ground. This is the biggest pain area we got. I think I will request Honorable Ministry and somewhere to take a serious note about this. We are here to catch the train and we are being pulled back by so many regulations, so many things, whether it's local level, whether it's central level. This is something which is deterring a lot of guys as for us. So this is something we drastically would like an improvement. Second is what Sanjay has told to this. Every state has started coming up with their own data center policies. And they announce the policies mainly because of some reasons or something. But then suddenly you realize that that policy is not ratified by the cabinet. There is financial minister who puts an spoke saying that this incentive, how did you pass on this incentive? It's not tied down to an extent that you can implement the policy from day one. There are cases policy have been announced by most of the state government are in the draft stages. And we got the central policy also being funded. As Sanjay said very clearly, we need to tie it to make it a concrete policy, which becomes the standard for us to implement from day one. There are, in the data center industry, for all good reasons, I got many investors lining up for us. So I don't think so financial starting of a project is a concern for us. These things are a concern for us. And obviously, we would like the third part we said, data center per se in a standalone basis doesn't help us. It has to be tied up with the network connectivities. How we can connect the network, what kind of incentive we get to get the cable to land into our shores, multiple cables to land into shores, and then do the interstate connectivity on that. And as Mr. Sinha and Mr. Earlier told by Rajendra Kumar, our Adani's intention is not India. We want to be global data processing, at least for the Asia Pacific here. We are looking big scale. We want to be big. It is beyond the country here because we are into the area of sustainable green data center. And I think somewhere we need policy to help us to get there. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Points. And sorry to keep interrupting like this, but I promise after this I won't interrupt. But these are 2 points that you have made between the two of you. One is about state government and their roles. And the other issue is about broadly the internet topology of the country and what is the progress in the next 5 years. On the state government, as you know, in this meeting today, there are state government stakeholders involved. And I say to them, as I say through you to all the states, and I will explain how we are doing this with the states, that this will only work if there is a partnership between Government of India and the state government, with a common outcome, common objective of essentially expanding investments into the data center and the cloud space. And as we have learned from the electronics experience, the states that first do it will get the prime mover advantage. And the states that sit around and obfuscate on this will lose this opportunity. So I say this to all the senior people from the state government today, that it is in their state's interest to work in partnership with the industry and with the Government of India and address these issues of approvals. To our part, what we are doing, and at the instruction of our Prime Minister, is twice a year we will engage with the state governments at the IT and industry ministry levels, where we will sit down and review where we are vis-a-vis each of these policy objectives. And these are opportunities for creating investment and jobs in the state. Investments and jobs are not in MeitY's electronics negative. So I would urge that you all do the same advocacy. ASOCHAM is here, CIA is here. Be part of this advocacy. We will do our part. And one of the key messages I give to the state governments is that if you miss the bus in the next 1 year, you are at the bus stop and you'll be waiting for a bus that never will come. I mean, this is true for electronics. Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Telangana, Noida in Uttar Pradesh have emerged now as the electronics hubs of this country. And that is because those state governments moved fast, very responsibly, and made that possible. Same way, state government should move quickly and make these investments possible. And as far as MeitY is concerned, at the minister level, we will have twice a year engagement with the state governments to evaluate the progress of these policies. I just wanted to leave that.
Thank you.
Internet topology front, there is a lot of work that is being done in the ministry, working closely with the DOT to lay out a comprehensive broadband network topology availability, power lines, RailTel, PGCIL, petroleum and pipeline companies, all of them have capacity. But we want to integrate all of that and show a comprehensive broadband network capability, on the top of which data centers can be sited, or you can have spurs that go to the data center. So that is a job in progress, work in progress, and when we are ready, we will present it to the ministry. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. My name is Sunil Gupta. I represent YOTA. We came into this business since last 3 years. Sir, I'd like to make some tactical points on the policy which Mr. Sinha has announced and some strategic points on the overall. Sir, on the policy side, sir, we are talking about putting a benchmark of maximum 1.5 PUE. As the industry in the last 20 years, India used to be PUE of 1.8, 1.9. When we used to do gas-based cooling, we were not doing containment and many of the technologies. Today, with advent of best of the quality of chillers and other technologies, we all are able to design as per 1.5. But in actual reality, there are very little or less data centers who are still able to come to 1.5, because you are able to reach that only when your data center is full to reasonable level. Only then you are able to, have that balance. So what I would recommend and suggest in this case, sir, maybe it can be stepwise approach that day one when the policy is there for next 3 years, possibly the PUE benchmark is taken a little higher. 1.6 is a right benchmark which people after 1 or 2 years of operation with reasonable capacity fill are able to achieve. And possibly after 2 or 3 years, once let's say the policy is stabilized, a lot of data centers have come up, their capacity has got filled, maybe you put the benchmark a little tougher and make it 1.5. So maybe that is one suggestion I would like to give, sir. Sir, second, again on the policy, sir. Sir, on the qualification criteria, you are putting the minimum investment criteria as 25 crore plus per megawatt. Sir, I just beg to differ on this. It is rather telling per megawatt, if you can be efficient, don't be efficient. You have to invest at 25 megawatt or more. So my request would be to put a criteria of how much investment you are making. So you want to say 5 megawatt, which means 125 crore or maybe 250, 300 crore. What is the total investment you are making? But sir, again, sir, if I give you some benchmark, to the customer, hyperscaler, just 5 years back, we were selling our rack space at $110, $120 per kW, just about 5 years back. Today, with the size and scale which has come up, even these customers have become very conscious of the cost, and they are negotiating it down to below $70 per kW. I can pass on that type of cost only when I become efficient in my capex and opex. So this 25 crore should not be the minimum thing. Rather, you should rather promote more efficiency. There can be different way. As I said, you can put it on a total investment as a criteria and not as a minimum. Because if I can become 22 crore per megawatt, I would rather like to become that. So that was the second point, sir. So third point, I think my colleagues from Adani also talked about, sir. So this is relating to today our data centers are in Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, Chennai, Delhi, and the main cities. As a country, we have got so much of discourse. Why don't we go to remote cities? So remote cities is far dream. Today, even if you make a data center 2 hours away from the main city, and I'm, for example, giving example of my own data center, I made it further away from Navi Mumbai, and we have got, while I had the land, while I could draw power from 220 kV lines, and I had all the ecosystem there, the issue was of network. You were not having the dense, resilient, redundant fiber available in that place. I had two options, sir. Either I asked all the telecom operators to spend money and bring their fiber there through redundant paths, or I lay my own fiber. In the first case, the telecom operators could not see the feasibility that why they should invest so much of fiber while they were not sure as a new operator whether I'll be able to give the business to them or not. So, sir, there has to be, and in any case, sir, today we have telecom operators who are also data center operators. So there's sometimes become a little indirect resistance also to extend fiber to a new operator. So my suggestion, sir, in this case would be, if we want to promote data centers into remoter areas, far, I can say, let's say 2 hours away from a city, not into, let's say, Indore or Bhopal, but let's say even, let's say, away, let's say Greater Noida, or let's say, there. So there has to be some mandate to the existing telecom operators. They can be subsidized by the government for that. That fiber has to be taken in a resilient and redundant resilient way. And the second part, sir, as an extension of that is, if that is not possible, the data center operator, to make his data center feasible, should be allowed and maybe given the right of way, possibly free or subsidized right of way, to put up their own fiber, connecting their data center to the other data centers and landing stations and other points of contact, sir. So that is my third point, sir. Sir, fourth point, I think my STT colleagues talked about, sir. And again, I would like to put it by way of an example, sir. Sir, we are making now a data center in Greater Noida, and it gets covered by the National Capital Region, the rules. Because of the pollution-related issues, there were guidelines that in the whole of NCR region, you cannot use diesel as a source of your power. Now, when you're using diesel for 6 hours or 8 hours a day, possibly it creates a problem. But as my STT colleague said, that we may be using it maybe once in a month to test. And if your power is reliable, you are taking express feeders, main power is reliable, you may not have to use it other than for few hours of testing in a month. You don't use diesel. But that is your critical lifeline, diesel. Because in case once in a 5 years, once in 10 years, the power goes off, there is a flooding, there is a curfew, there's some natural calamity because of which the power goes down. I am supposed to, as per my global SLAs, I'm supposed to run my data center for 48 hours without getting any source of fuel from outside, because there may be floods on the road and the tanker cannot come in. So if I have to do that, maybe use it only once in 5 years and to store it, then possibly for data centers, for a usage which is very minimal in a month, should be allowed to use diesel. Now, the proposition which was given to us, sir, I'm expanding this, but just to put forward the point, sir, the proposition which was given to us, why can't you use gas? So our argument is, gas, I'm not storing on this. So I don't have a control on that. That also is coming just like power. It's coming on utility lines. Gas is also coming from some gas pipelines. So you are not very sure of something which is stopping the power to come to your facility during a calamity can also stop the gas to come to your campus. So essentially what we need as a backup power source is something which is in your campus itself. So either we take steps to reduce the cost of dual fuel generators, like diesel generators, which can act on both diesel as well as on gas. And we also reduce the cost of storage of gas on your campus, right? There are like technologies available, you can do that, but they're extremely costly. So we can't do that. So proposition, sir, is because we are going to use diesel as a very, very rare commodity and not always, possibly data centers should be exempt from rules like this. Sir, fifth point is relating to renewables, sir. We talked about it. Thanks for, we heard that now the interstate, the transmission charges have waived off. Sir, as of today, in many states, the rules are that you can put a captive power plant only up to your maximum demand. So if I'm making a data center of 30 megawatt, total capacity of 45 megawatt, including PUE, because from solar, I can at best draw 25 to 30% of power. I will generate only in the daytime. I cannot generate in the night time. So effectively, maximum out of my 45 megawatt of power requirement, I can only generate 15 megawatt net in case I am allowed to make a solar plant only of 45 megawatt. So we should be allowed to make a power plant as big as we want, maybe 3 times the capacity, so that the extra power which I generate in the daytime, I should be able to bank it with the nearest utility provider, or I should be able to store it, using the cost-effective storage. And then I should be able to use in the night time, because then in real sense, I am becoming 100%. And you want to incentivize, sir, that as much renewable energy I use, as much you will incentivize. And that's what our goal as a country is. Because we are 24/7 power users as data center and not only daytime. So we should generate more in the daytime, bank it, store it, and then use it in the nighttime. So that type of, if we can have a common policy across India instead of every time trying to convince individual states, that will be helpful, sir. Sir, my 6th point is regarding the building code, sir. We have talked about it. In fact, besides the clearances, which the Adani colleagues have spoken quite in detail, sir, the second biggest problem which our sector has faced, sir, is convincing the local municipality every time about why we need, for example, a floor to ceiling height more, or why we don't need parking because these buildings have equipment and not people, or why we need a chiller platform and things like that. So here, sir, thankfully, a lot of work has been done. Most of the states where dentals are coming up, they have come out with their own policies, which are very progressive policies. They have understood this thing. They have made the local changes. But sir, a demand has been made by the industry so that every time we don't end up going and convincing a local state government. And I think this suggestion is before METI already, that if a changes can be done in the National Building Code itself, where data center is recognized as a separate category of building, and all these things are codified so that we don't end up, especially that parking rule and all, it creates lots of problem for us, sir. Sir, my last point was, sir, Mr. Sinha, you have put in your policy that for the data center park or building operators, you are giving localization benefit. sorry, not localization benefit, you are giving the renewable energy benefit and POE benefit. But you are saying that the localization benefit will be available only to the cloud operator or the hardware operator because their country has a way to go. Right now, we are just 15-20% and we have to go big way. Sir, I would like to submit that possibly it will be good that even data center operators also are incentivized for using more local. While 60 to 70% of the so-called low side work, the civil works and the the cooling distribution, power distribution, all that is all local. But still the boxes, the chillers, the UPSs, the batteries, many of these things, I mean, in many cases, because of quality or otherwise issues, we end up even importing our raised floor tiles also. So if, and it's not like that the local manufactured material is not available. It is available. So I would say, sir, in the context of Atmanirbhar Bharat, especially because the local options are available, if you incentivize the operator to use more domestic, it will give an immediate result because the local options most of the time are available. It's just that we may not be using it. But if you extend that, that will produce immediate results because the options are available. Thank you very much, sir.
I think just to mention a point here, we already are working with the National Building Code aspect of the point, and we have had very fruitful discussion with them. We hope that issues you mentioned, they will be resolved. So just to inform all the.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you, firstly, to the Honorable Minister and the entire dignitary panel. I'm from Control S. I'm Siddharth, and I'm accompanied by my colleague, Mr. Vikram, who has the government business. Just want to make a couple of submissions. Mostly our industry peers have already covered most of the points. I know you've already emphasized how important it is for the state and the central government authorities to work in tandem to make this policy really successful. Since the Tamil Nadu dignitaries are also here, I just wanted to bring up one important thing. The policy is well built. It's really beautiful. It's a wholesome policy. But understanding it and the way we articulate it in detail and enforcing and implementing this is of prime importance. Data centers have already been categorized as infrastructure facilities. It has been given an infrastructure category. Thanks. But now, if at all we look at in Tamil Nadu context, the data center policy, Tamil Nadu also has the data center policy now, and they're also categorized data centers as industry and are according industry tariff, power tariff to them. The problem is it has been subsidized, but it hasn't been categorized as industry as such. There are many other issues which count or which come along with it. In most of the states, it's still considered as commercial sector. Like, for example, in Gujarat, it's still commercially categorized and they still charge us commercial tariff. Whereas Tamil Nadu is giving us industrial tariff, but it's still considered as a commercial activity, wherein we have to fund the substation capacity. We also have to gift deed a portion of land from the real estate piece, which is of very high value here. And that might take us lots of time, and there are lots of other attributes to it, which is a huge time-consuming process. So articulating this and enforcing it with state and central authorities in tandem is of prime importance, sir. That was one thing. And in terms of, I know my fellow colleague from YOTA and STT have already covered in terms of renewable energy. I just wanted to touch up a little bit more on edge. It's a very high-sounding word recently, a buzzword in the industry currently, where most of the states are competing to have these capacities with them. And mostly, since this is still in a very nascent stage, the capacities would be very small, probably a couple of racks, maybe 100 racks at max. But in METI, we do have certain empanelment that if you would want to become a cloud operator, you should come with at least 100 odd racks. There's a threshold set. Just wanted to check with you guys if at all that threshold could be reconsidered so that the ecosystem in the upcoming cities, not the metros, but the tier 2 cities could also start springing up. And also most of the discoms today have a certain threshold set for consuming renewable energy. So unless you hit a capacity anything more than 1 megawatt or more, you will not be able to draw a renewable energy. If that threshold could be altered for new upcoming data centers, which are smaller in capacity, probably this would also set an impetus to the data center capacities which are upcoming in the smaller cities. That's one point. And yeah, I guess I'll submit these 2 points and leave it with that. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Thanks to METI for creating this platform for consultation. My name is Ramanujan. We represent SIFI Technologies. We have been in the DC field for past 2 decades. Our first data center was sometime in 2000, and we have been operating data centers for past 20 years. Of course, our industry colleagues from STT and Yota, they made those points. I didn't want to repeat those points, except that one is on the RE. Just want to stress on the importance of RE. While we insist that importance of RE, bringing in RE to the data centers, important is to get that penetration level. They say, for example, the out of the consumption that we do in terms of power, how much we are able to penetrate from RE. So I kind of stress on those changes which were suggested by the colleagues. And second thing is on the investments. Actually, the investments, while we are scaling up from 500 megawatt to 2000 megawatts, it would require an investment to be made in terms of, not only in terms of IT equipments, but while we tell that 25 crores per megawatt, it also requires 25 into 1500 megawatt, right? That's the kind of investment that somebody would be doing. And a significant portion of that investment will also be made in real estate, in terms of the building, in terms of those equipment. So the input tax credit for those infrastructure activities today, which is not available, which is making this investment activity itself, say around 15 to 18% costlier for the data center players. The real estate portion of it is today costly because we don't get input tax credit for those GST which is there. While we recognize this as an infrastructure sector, all those things, the request is to consider an input tax credit for those real estate activities. Second is on the edge data centers. So this policy kind of, at least in this documents, we don't find the regulations and those incentives for an edge data centers. Today, whatever our colleagues spoke about the network consistency and the redundancy that is there, and also expansion to the tier 2 cities, everything is going to be possible only in case we have an edge data centers. And given that 5G is going to be rolled out and all those entire thing is going to run, unless, without a network, a data center is meaningless, right? So once we want to do that, I think inclusion of those edge data centers into these policies will really be helpful for the players like us to establish those edge data centers, not only the hyperscale data centers, which is more than 5 megawatt and which is more than 10 megawatts, or smaller data centers, edge data centers, which can be established in tier 2 cities. All those things can also help that network resilience and also reduce the stress on the existing data centers that we have in Chennai or in Mumbai. It will reduce the stress on those data centers. So request is to have provisions and incentives for those edge data centers as well into this policy. These are the additional 2 points which I wanted to bring before the meeting here. Thanks.
Thanks, Minister of State. Thanks, Mighty, for this platform. I represent Bharti Airtel and its digital platform called Nextra by Airtel. Thanks for all the colleagues who have spoken. The unique vantage point that I bring in is a network and a combination of a data center point of view, how they can interplay between really creating a digital future that we're thinking about. Right? Just picking up the point which my CIFI colleague spoke about. If you have to truly believe 5G, IoT applications are the future for the new digital wave or the next wave of digital transformation, edge will play a larger role than the hyperscale. Right? When I say edge in state capitals, edge in tier 2 cities, and edge even in tier 3 cities. Today, we have transformed about 130 data centers in the country, right from Ladakh to Cochin, Ahmedabad to Shillong, Guwahati, converting an edge data center, erstwhile telecom infra, to cater to edge application, edge cloud security. And if we somehow miss out this whole piece in this incentivization policy, I think we'll largely miss out a large part of next wave of transformation that we might think from a perspective that we have as an industry player. So reinforcing the point, some 1 megawatt, 2 megawatt of a capacity on edge should be incentivized as we move forward. The second point is, Minister spoke about states missing out on opportunity. Minister spoke about states missing out on opportunity if they don't work fast in next 12 months' time. So I have a larger concern. India will miss out on opportunity if we don't concretize this policy as early as possible. There are alternate governments in Southeast Asia, in Asia Pacific, who are vying for the same capacities, same compute, same investments as we are vying. If we need to really grab them, because once the setup is there, it's very difficult for a data center player, a hyperscale player, an application player to churn out that base capacity away from the country or a city or a particular location itself. So it's like you're stuck there for 20, 25 years. So if we don't have this policy in next 6 months, I think we will miss out on our opportunity. There are challenges in the neighboring countries, as someone alluded to earlier. This is the right opportunity for us to encash on that. The third part I want to mention is that re-highlighting what our STT folks spoke about. There are single windows and there are multiple single windows. Every department has a single window, and that's a definition of a single window at a state level, right? My only request is, if we should get away with the word of single window. There's one department or one agency who approves data center from end-to-end scope, right from land acquisition, pre-construction approvals, delivery, and operations. The moment we get into the single window clearances definition, we all hark back to the same instruments which have not worked for us till now. That's a request that I have from Nextra and Airtel. The last point, last 2 points specifically. GST is making us, the GST non-input credit is making our industry, India-specific industries, 15 to 20% uncompetitive from the world market. We need to get that input credit. If I'm providing a service and an output, all the input that I take should naturally form as a GST input for my output. That's a request. And the last part of this whole thing is coming to the tactical part of the Mr. Sinha's policy. How do we measure, at what point do we measure this PUE, at what point do we measure RE? I set up a data center, it will never be a PUE 1.8 or 1.3 from day one. Are we going to measure 3 years down the line? Are we going to measure 5 years down the line? That needs a clarity. RE itself will take time. RE will take time from a 0% to 100%. It might take 5 years, it might take 2 years, depending on what my utilization levels are, right? So we need to be clear on timelines of the policy rather than just the statement of the policy itself. So these are the 5 points I want to lay down before the ministry and MIT.
We have noted the concern about edge data centers, and we will incorporate it suitably. In RE and PUE that we have discussed, 3 years time after setting up a data center will be given, and for any 1 year you have to calculate PUE and RE, because we understand that it will take some time to fill up all the capacity that you are setting up. And in RE policy that Ministry of Power is working, this 1 megawatt concern will be addressed, and probably it will be lowered also. Banking will also be probably provided for 1 month, so that day and night issues can be resolved. So all those things will do. Since time is less, I will request other participants to stick to one or two important points, because all other participants have to speak. And then we have online participants also. So kindly restrict your views.
Yes. Yeah. So I really thank respected Sri Rajiv Chandrasekhar ji for leading from front this nation building initiative. I also thank the dignitaries from Government of India, Dr. Rajendra Kumar, Mr. Amitesh Sinha, Srimati Uma Chauhan, DGST for putting up with their excellent efforts for National Data Center Policy, Data Center and Cloud Policy. I also thank the other members from the IT for joining in. I feel really honored today as called upon to discuss such an important policy of Government of India, and definitely feel pride as we being an Indian OEM for servers, storage, and have been able to contribute to building compute infrastructure for many national data centers for last 14 years.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Sanjay Lodha from NetTip Technologies. I'm sorry about this. Okay, so basically, we being an Indian OEM for server storage, have been able to contribute to building compute infrastructure for many national data centers for last 14 years. Supplying some of the fastest Param supercomputing systems has helped us to prove our competency level as an Indian OEM for servers. We have served more than 1,000 plus government departments, including RailTel, CDAC, and some of the Fortune 500 companies. I must mention that despite we have been producing servers in India for more than a decade, but long-awaited opportunity and level playing field to the Indian OEMs of our servers is finally given by Narendra Modi ji led government. As mentioned by Sri Sinha during his address, and National Data Center Policy pays a clear attention to evolvement of open source technologies. I would like to continue from that point and share with all the industry members, we being a proven Indian server OEM have not only come up with latest servers suitable for data centers, but also have built solutions based on open source technology, such as OpenStack, Kubernetes, K8 clusters, software-defined storage, like Chef storage, block storage options. All these offerings from us are now helping 5G IT infra deployment, 5G cloud infra for ITES and government enterprises. So more importantly, with this National Data Center Policy being responsible, Indian OEM for servers, we are all geared up to help all industry players and help achieve maximum local content with their Make in India servers. And at the same time, we are ready with open source technologies-based data center ready solutions too. Being an Indian server OEM, we are committed towards providing data center ready servers, storage systems, and our solutions based on open source technologies with dedicated support. And I feel that we will complement the efforts of the Government of India. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
My name is Prasanna Kumar, and I represent Corning here, which is a manufacturer of fiber optic cables and equipments, etc. I'll make it very brief. Thanks, Meti, for having me here in this August gathering. We make fiber in the Chakan plant close to Pune. This was operational in 2012. This factory now works 24/7. And sorry, I have a bad cold. A part of the produce, what we manufacture locally is used domestically, and a part of it is exported outside of the country. Secondly, recently, in line with Modi ji's gift to the nation, like Make in India, Digital India, etc., we started manufacturing products locally for data center industry. And in the last 3-4 months, we've been able to deliver those products made locally in India to some of the colleagues here who spoke earlier, and maybe some of them will speak after me. It's a very proud moment for us to have made this possible. Thanks to the government for all the support. We will continue to invest in India to make more products which are required by the data center operators, and make it more efficient, make it quick and fast to install, and above all, give great performance, what we're looking at to deliver 40G, 100G, 400G kind of performances. That's it from me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Sanjeev Gupta here from Karnataka Digital Economy Mission. I talk later, sir. Let the other talk first.
Good afternoon to one and all. And I thank NASCOM for providing the opportunity to attend this event. Myself, Amit Kumar. I run a startup called ServerCake. We are one of the cloud hosting company from a tier 2 city, Coimbatore. And we support and encourage all sort of open sources like hosting, mailing solutions, Dockers and Kubernetes to our local customers. And especially we support a lot of SMEs and local businesses in and around Coimbatore. So what are the challenges we face is the cost of services from the hyperscalers and the manpower challenges to be employed if we set up our servers and our utilities in a DC, or the travel time from Coimbatore to Chennai or to Bangalore, wherever the DC is there from our clients, and the cost of bandwidth and power, and the demand from clients to host locally as they are utilizing a lot of their services on premises still. So I propose and I also suggest to provide a clear-cut policy or something to set up a edge data center with a lesser capacity of 0.25 megawatt. So we are experimenting a small set of DC for the last more than 12 plus years. So we don't have any sort of connectivity or networking, and due to as a startup we face a lot of challenges on day-to-day basis, like managing the clients, managing our services. On top of that, doing an innovation or R&D, like myself, from a first generation entrepreneur I am. So basically we face a lot of challenges. So to address that, there is no such any norms or any training or any such protocols. So we learned everything by ourselves, by experimenting things. So with that experimenting things, the time has gone. More than 10 plus years has gone. So now, like what I'm suggesting is like we require some support from the government of India to set up a cost-effective edge data center to cater the local businesses, and which helps us to support our R&D and to do some innovation in cloud space that will help us to a bigger extent. And subsidized power and bandwidth, it's being a big challenge. So even we have a small setup, we go and discuss with TNEB. There are some subsidized rates for such kind of business models. They are even not aware. So they say like, where is the policy? Where is the details? You just bring and come back. So we also try to see, but there is no such information is also available for us. And there is a demand to host locally, and the cost, as the previous big giants who are all in front, they have said like the cost of per rack has been demanding to be less than $70 per rack. Still, a lot of our customers are hosting outside India for even a less than $25. So to meet that demand, so we need a bigger extent of support in terms of power and bandwidth. And as a startup, like we look forward to provide solutions to our local businesses in a local manner. So my request to set up, we are trying to set up Edge DC. We require some financial assistance. Even we approach banks, they are even not aware of what business model it is. What is a data center? No bank managers are not aware of this. So they make us to go around robin, and then finally they say, still we need some more time. So we need some sort of clear-cut support from the government through the financial institutions to support a startup. And for the redundant power and bandwidth, as they said, like network to a remote location, it seems to be a big challenge. in Tier 1 city, as the designatory told from Yota, they are getting challenges to have the network in Panvel or Nerul, if I'm not wrong. Sorry, sir. So for Coimbatore, it's a dream to have a proper redundant bandwidth. So 5 years I have tested with all redundant network connectivities with the local ISPs and Airtel and Tata, but still I'm not able to have a confidence that the network is very strong. So in Digital India and empowering India, so without making a Tier 2 and Tier 3 city connected, well connected through the digital network, it doesn't make sense. We are digitally empowered. Still, we are facing a lot of challenges. So for that, if we get proper assistance and support, we can able to do wonders. And if there is any sort of training or certifications can be provided in a subsidized cost, that will also help us to boost. And the biggest factor, even we go and convince our customers to do and come host with us, the biggest question they comes back with us, how can you say that you can host my servers in Coimbatore? How come it is possible in Coimbatore? Always there is a myth that data centers should be in Mumbai, Chennai or Bangalore, in Tier 1 cities only. So to break out that kind of mindset from customers, if Edge DC comes up with the proper guidelines and setup and assistance, we can able to empower local business in a very great way. Thank you.
Excuse me, you mentioned 0.25 megawatt, or that is only 250 kilowatt.
Yeah, for Edge DC, that is more than sufficient, if I'm not wrong.
Good afternoon, Minister. Good afternoon, respected members of MITI and the industry members today. We thank you for providing us this opportunity to participate in the discussion for the cloud policy. Sir, respected sir, I would like to bring your attention to, I'm Shubhra Srivastava from Zoho Corporation. I would like to bring your attention to the national cloud policy, sir. Also, the fact that the SaaS industry in India is not recognized and accepted to be empaneled on the mighty cloud, the government cloud of Indian government, for the reason that SaaS do not qualify either as the infrastructure as a service or platform as a service provider. Respected sir, I would like to bring your attention that SaaS industry does not need these two prerequisites for the empanelment. The reason being that this industry is a bouquet bundle comprised of both the product, software product, as well as the services on its own. We are not deficient in the IaaS or the PaaS platform. We are a industry, a fulfilling industry on our own. Sir, I would also like to let you know, currently India imports 70% of its software product from abroad. And we, as in the local cloud service providers, are not yet given the opportunity to serve the Indian economy, the government or the industry, and provide the emerging technologies that we have to offer, the advanced technologies that we have to offer in terms of the solutions, as well as the services for the benefit of the economic development. Sir, I would also like to highlight the economic benefits that we bring in terms of the efficiencies created by the cost and time. I would also highlight the fact that we are a Atmanirbhar company. We are established in India, and it's going to be almost 3 decades in here, and we ensure that the Indian data resides in India and has never left Indian boundaries ever. Also, we are the contributors to the export earnings of India, the much needed foreign exchange in India. And we have been also creating the highly skilled talent pool in India by providing the employment and employment in the various tier 1, tier 2 and 3 cities and the entrepreneurship development. Sir, I would humbly make a request that we have lost a lot of time and the SaaS industry requires a lot of support in terms for the national cloud policy, wherein the empanelment of the SaaS is permitted onto the government cloud. Thank you.
Can you just elaborate on the empanelment issue that you're facing for?
Sir, the prerequisite requirement of government cloud empanelment for a cloud service provider is that it should be a IaaS and a PaaS provider, whereas SaaS does not individually comes in those format because it is a bundled up service. It includes the IaaS, PaaS and all of that. So we will not be a individual provider as such. And our application was also being rejected because of this reason, whereas SaaS industry requires a classification on its own because it has not been rightly
we will consider that
defined.
Yeah. Actually, sir, for cloud empanelment, the empanelment says that either you should be a infrastructure provider, and then later on we had included platform as a service also. But they are simply SaaS providers. They are not able to provide the infrastructure as a service, is platform as a service. So they are independently SaaS providers. So they have been, I had asked them to liaison with the existing empaneled cloud service providers and provide their SaaS services on their platforms. Because infrastructure is a must if you are a service provider. So, yeah.
That is the conventional thing for the matter. We hear you and we will respond.
Right, sir.
Good afternoon, Minister, and also the members from MITI. I also represent Zoho. My name is Sridharan. And I want to add a couple of points to what Shubhra has been talking. One of the things that we face is that we interact with a lot of state departments, particularly with Tamilnadu, we work a lot. And also many other states like Karnataka and other states. So our solutions are being used, but at some point of time, this empanelment becomes an issue when the engagement does not translate into a proper solution. So that's one point. And we also see that there is a lot of inefficiencies because of this. Because what happens is, like if you take the recent COVID case, when a lot of these forms and things for moving from one state to other were all developed. So a lot of things were redone in the sense that a simple form will be developed by an application service provider on top of an existing infrastructure or things like that. Whereas some solutions by SaaS providers could actually make it much more easy, like to duplicate a form would be very easy. So these are some of the practical difficulties that we face. So this is one I wanted to highlight. And the other thing is that we have been talking about data centers. We as a software as a service providers also have captive data centers in the sense that we run our own data center here in Chennai. Because that actually brings us our scale of efficiencies. This we have been doing in almost all geographies. We are almost having data centers in all the continents. And we start with probably some of the established data center providers. And then at some point of time, it becomes from the efficiency and the cost perspective to have our own data center. So now what the problem is that our data center is in a SES zone. So you get some benefits because of SES. But then the other data center, obviously, the backup data center has to be at least 100 kilometers or 160 kilometers away. So we have one in Mumbai with one of the established service providers. Now, the issue is that we are able to get some this green power benefits and stuff like that for our corporate office here and where the data center is there. But for the backup data center, we don't get that benefits. And I'm also not sure, like if we are having a hybrid model where part of the data centers are owned by us and part we go and establish ourselves on established players, how exactly will this apportioning of the cost will work out in terms of how the, because we would be paying for the power at both places, but we will be having a slightly different tariffs at different places. Same with the network connectivity and all other things, because here you may be having one kind of a tariff and there it will be a different kind of a tariff. And I think one thing I'm really happy about is that a lot of these people have talked about captive, and Sinha sir has already said that he has noted it down. We also have the same issues also. See, when we actually provide a software as a service, the important thing these days is content delivery networks, application acceleration, and these actually need servers to be present at various diverse geographies closer to the point of consumption. So, which means that we should have some policy for hosting servers and services from close to from say tier 2 and tier 3 data centers as they are talking about. So that would also be benefiting for software as a service providers, because that way the acceleration, the efficiencies will be great. And one other point that we are facing is also with respect to, like, we have our own ASNs, our own IP space. So how exactly do we connect to the Nixie or any other place? Because today we, I think, go through some kind of a telecom provider. So that will actually give you some inefficiencies in the way in which the data is getting transferred from one say, for example, let's assume that there is one data center somewhere in, say, Chennai, and there is one data center somewhere in Uttar Pradesh, both being used by companies having their presence in these two states, or maybe even the government departments from two different states. How exact? So actually the system may be the same, because of the way in which the geography is now divided between the two states. There may be a lot of hops in between, which could be probably properly taken care of. And about dark fiber renting, maybe if there are some policies, these can also be thought of from our perspective, because we have to expand in different places. So how exactly do we do that? And I also saw something about local content. So we are also a service, a software provider for monitoring of data, say IT infrastructure and other things like application monitoring and stuff like that. So I would like to know what would be the way to present ourselves to the larger audience here. There are a lot of data service providers and other people. How can we encourage a market where local software service providers like us, I mean, local software vendors like us, are able to reach these people and maybe help in ensuring that more local content and more local software is being used by the various people. So if there is some kind of, thanks a lot for this opportunity. And
I just want to interrupt with one, think of this as Gyan, free Gyan from Delhi. Look, there is a tectonic change in the way we are going to organize ourselves and the digital ecosystem has been organized. So if you have a historic legacy model of having one server here, one server in Coimbatore, one server in Cochin, wherever, you may want to start reimagining that, because that is not a model that is sustainable. So, and I want this to be, I'm saying this politely, I don't want you to misunderstand me, but this entire policy is about taking everybody into the cloud and the whole digital economy to a large part is going to reside on these multiple clouds that are in turn going to be residing on these capacities that are going to be built. So in a way, if you have a historically built a model for your data and for your digital business, this is a good time to start rethinking that. So this is just my free piece of advice. I won't charge you for it. The other one is on, look, the SaaS versus platform as a service versus etc., etc. I don't understand what this empanelment means, but I'm assuming that is a way to access the government business. Am I right?
So that would not just be accessing the government business alone, but then it would be helping the Indian economy to thrive with that technology offering. Right now, we are not able to offer that as well, because as we mentioned, there are many such demands for the digital transition comes,
So
which
I will
requires
examine
empanelment.
that. I just want to say that in the way we see technology services and entrepreneurship in the post-COVID world, given that we are heavily investing in the internet and the internet backbone network and the data center, it is obvious that we want a proliferation of new gen, old gen SaaS companies. So Zoho, Freshworks, and may there be another 200 of them. So if the government is in any way coming in the way of that, I will get the ministry to examine that and address that. But we are very, very clear that our policy outcomes must create 100 Zohos. I don't know if that is a good news for you or bad news for you, but we want 100 Zohos.
So good news for us.
Next, please.
Just respected Honorable Minister and the panel members. I'm Andrew Winston from Intellect Design Arena Limited. So we actually provide the banking product on the cloud. That's what we started. So we do that, we work along with the data center providers to provide the cloud service for the banks. So that way, that because earlier bank used to have a response for holding complete information security. Now it responsibility comes to us to how we protect all the stacks, everything. So we follow the RBI guideline for that security stacks. But we look into that, certain banks and other insurance are covered under that. But the policy left in some gray area that where it's not covered by that RBI, but there are financial institutions where how that security stack minimum should be there. If that can be defined in the cloud policy, then it will clear us that yes, minimum this is what we should have. Otherwise, they may get impact on any of this. That's one point. The second point is that because we get a lot of opportunity from outside the country to host the cloud services here in that country. So we have to depend again upon the data center providers for providing the complete stack here. Because if we go to UK kind of certain countries, Europe country, where we have a clear GDPR, you can't host the data out of UK or Germany like that guideline or US guideline. We can't bring the data here. But there are other countries, as I could see that the cloud policy is for allowing the neighboring countries to come and host here. That's what we are encouraging here. So some of the countries are approaching here that what is the policy for us to host in India? So is there any policy or anything? Because if we go to the data center provider, they don't have the detail. But this is a little gray area that how this can be addressed part of the cloud policy. That's it for me. Thank you.
So I'm sorry to keep responding like this, but when we say cloud, it is implied that it is secure cloud. And so therefore the policy will lay down what the security requirements of a cloud provider are. This will come from not the cloud policy, it will come from the national cybersecurity policy. I just wanted to put that.
Hello, Honorable Minister and other dignitaries. Myself, Hira, and I have with me my colleague Manav present here, and we are representing CoreOver. Primarily, CoreOver is a company which is which provides like chatbot as a service, and we are working closely with a lot of government bodies. So, for example, the Disha bot, which you see on IRCTC, the NPCI bot, and for that matter, we are working closely with a lot of other enterprises like Mahindra, etc. as well. And primarily our focus is combining meta and video to give an intuitive and more personalized omni-channel this experience to all the customers in more than 112 languages. So primarily, I guess what I would actually like to focus here in case of a startup like us is that even is there any policy with regards to because there's a lot of data which we are dealing with and because NPCI and IRCTC itself has got humongous amount of data, right? So just wanted to understand, is there something for us in terms of getting any kind of exemptions out there in terms of keeping our data and all those things?
The data protection bill.
Yeah. Yes. So primarily, so we are actually CMMI level 5 company, but just wanted to understand, like in terms of since this data we are keeping it on cloud. So is there any exemption in terms of like cost, etc., that we are incurring there? Because we also provide that as a service to our customers too.
We're charging them for storing it.
Yes. Yes.
So that's the incentive.
No. So it's not always. Sorry to interrupt. It is not always charging because with a lot of government bodies likes of IRCTC, we are also providing our services free too. So it's not always chargeable.
This policy doesn't address that. Just long and short is that. And if it's a thing that we want to sidebar, have a discussion with the gentleman, we can have that.
Yes, I would prefer that. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Angaya from Oracle. And as Minister, you just spoke about the tectonic shift. Just wanted to just ensure that if the policy could be a forward-looking to identify more population scale innovations, right? And for that, we need to invest a lot of resources in the country to create innovation. So while we're dealing with innovation, would there be some platform which would recognize some basic hygiene, not now, but even 5 years, 10 years down the line, which could say we can provide managed services or give the confidence to the stakeholders, say, we will give you SLAs, right, for be it availability, performance, manageability. The reason why we're saying this is, while all our colleagues out here are investing and you are supporting the whole program, let even the consumers also be rest assured, yes, there are SLAs, that there will be uninterrupted services. Emerging technology has been spoken a lot out here. Is there an incentive to us out here to also work with startups? I don't know. It's up to you. Because even when we did this with a startup in Hyderabad for ODTS, not many people here would know, oxygen distribution tracking system, right, during the COVID. Those are few things which the platform could be used for any other purpose also on a population scale. Even the PM Gati Shakti speaks about the right of way, right? So some of these national programs can also be pathfinders for us. Someone spoke about, cables coming across. So this has already been spoken about. I'm just hoping that would there be a cross-pollination between Ministry of IT and other ministries, right? When it comes to multi-cloud policies. Gone are the days where a department would use just one cloud service provider. I'm from Oracle, I'm a cloud service provider. I'm giving you that example. Do we have something which will allow interoperability between cloud service providers? Can we have one CSP to talk to another cloud service provider? That is not here in this policy as we see it. We are anyway, thanks to Uma's madam's team, we are working every Thursday for the last 2-3 months that in March we're going to propose to ISO from India what will be the interoperability for multi-cloud. So we are part of the stake. Could that be part of it? Another incentive that we would seek is we have invested a lot of time in the India stack, the Aadhaar, the DigiLocker, the CDAC-based eSign. Is there an incentive for us, like cloud service providers, from a local value addition to create compelling solutions within India by incorporating these India stack? It's not easy, but having said that, just last week, along with Ministry of Commerce, we have done this thing called SLD, Secure Logistics Document Exchange. What that means is for all domestic and international trade today, 90% of the domestic trade will suffice with Aadhaar and CDAC. But if there's an importer or exporter who wants to extend that platform outside of India, then we bring in a Hyperledger Fabric. So we spend about 18 months to do that. What is the incentive for companies like us to continue to invest and innovate? That's it.
I think those points that you mentioned are good points. And if you have any ideas and anybody else has any ideas, please send them to us on cloud SLAs, cloud portability, and cloud interoperability. And in the cloud SLA, specifically, one of the things that I have been queried on repeatedly is how do customers exit from a cloud and move to another cloud and do that in a seamless manner without leaving a footprint behind. So any thoughts on that would be welcome, and we are happy to incorporate that into the cloud policy. It is clear that this document and this presentation addresses the issue of innovation and signals that we are hoping that this policy would create a multi-cloud environment in India. That is the signal of this policy. But it is clear that to make this multi-cloud environment successful, there are a number of inputs like this required. And please feel free to give us, anybody around the table, any suggestions on this. Please feel free to send those ideas to us.
Certainly. We already have it. We will hand it over to Mama. Right.
So why do you have to innovate? Why do you have to continue to innovate? Look, you can stop tomorrow and then be irrelevant if you want. But this is a business, this is a space where everybody has to be innovating every day, including the ministry and the government. So I'll just leave it at that. We'll have a sidebar conversation on this.
Okay, we'll do that.
Good afternoon, Minister. This is Tarun Karla from Reliance. I have a few points to make. The first one is everybody was talking about fiber unavailability in many places, and they're talking data center providers may also be asked to deploy fiber, but the major challenge today in fiber is the right of way. The kind of cost that we incur and the kind of processes that we face from municipality to municipality and the number of challenges that we face, it's very difficult for us to lay the fiber. And if TSPs, all the TSPs are facing these kind of challenges, I have a very big apprehension. The new entrants like DC providers will also have to face the same thing. So that's one solution we would urge you to help us figure out. My second point is one of the, so I've spent close to 10 years with Microsoft before Reliance, and I've been very active with the CMO in METI. One of the challenges and which is faced by a lot of government departments, and that's why the reason why government departments are not able to adopt cloud is the procurement. The GFR today does not allow to buy or procure cloud on a pay-as-you-go basis. So most of the departments, PSU states are either doing their own rate contracts where they're listing a set of services and they are then restricted to only buy those. And we need to figure out some innovative way to help everybody to buy cloud. And that's one thing which has been a major hindrance. And there's only less than 5% of government procurement in data center technology is going towards cloud. My third point is on the R&D. Like while we are talking about a lot of indigenous systems to be available in cloud, the three top cloud service providers, this year's investment in terms of R&D from them is close to the tune of about $100 billion. Now, if indigenous cloud providers have to compete with that, we need to incentivize R&D in India. We need to create a culture of R&D in India. And that's very, very important. Today, it takes a lot of time to invent and invest in products, build them, test them, and then take them to production. And by the time we do that, we see the technology landscape is even moved further. So it's a continuous process, and that's where we need to make continued investments in R&D in India. These were my 3 points.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Ilan Chedian from Tata Communications. So everybody spoke everything, right? So whatever points I have, they already covered. So one point I like to highlight, the transparency in public, especially cloud providers, especially public cloud providers, that needs to be ensured in policy. For example, the same product, if I go and buy same product, right? I face different compliance class. If somebody go and buy it, they will face a different compliance class. It's fairly unfair in many places. If you want, I'll send a one-to-one mail what exactly I'm meaning it, right? If the same product should be treated same for everybody, including the licenses, the compliance and all, right? Here there are unfair trade practices happening. Many products I can even quote. For example, if I go, they say, no, you don't have compliance because you don't. I don't know what is the compliance at all. There's no clarification. There is no transparency in the policy, right? So if that ensure that will be very good. Maybe a level playing field so that everybody can understand. Thank you.
Hello, sir. I would like to really thank Honorable Minister and MeitY for this wonderful opportunity. I'm Shiba from K7 Computing, which is a 30-year-old indigenous cybersecurity company in India. It is really welcome to see that the policies made by the government is focusing on indigenous company, and I really appreciate this incentive which is provided for the local value additions in this policy. It is a great encouragement for us. Similarly, we use a lot of data centers and we need a lot of data because today viruses and cybersecurity, we get millions and trillions of samples. So if these policies can include such indigenous companies, incentives for us to use these data centers, it will be of real help. Or give us some kind of subsidized rates because today our data centers definitely are not competitive compared to what we find outside India. So that will be of great encouragement for people like us who really need data and who create a lot of value back to the Indian system itself. So that is one. The other thing is if there is more emphasis on testing and certification frameworks for all the applications which are built from India, that will also give us more trust, especially to the data centers back and give us encouragement for Indian data centers to really grow. These are 2 points from my side. Thank you.
Very good afternoon, Honorable Ministry and the MeitY team. Myself, Sujoy Sen, and I represent iData Centers Private Limited. So first of all, thank you so much to the ministry for making data center industry as a part of infrastructure business. And also the entire MeitY team, Srimati Uma Chauhan and her team for supporting us in all aspects. And yes, we are today MeitY empaneled. Now I take pride of being an MSME because we have built a state-of-art Tier 4 Uptime Institute, one among the two. I think Mr. Sunil Gupta from YOTA was humble enough because we are the two who are actually the Tier 4 Uptime Institutes right now in India and the 4th largest in the world. So we have the guts to build that kind of data center being an MSME. And we have clear-cut plans in next 5 years to expand in length as well as in breadth to build more data centers in India. Two things really stop us. One is land cost. So somewhere you have mitigated that yes, you are planning for building that data center parks, but still we feel that there should be some policies rolled out from the central to the state where land can be actually given to data centers at a subsidized cost. Very much required. This will not only open routes to build data centers pan-India and also will open routes for state data centers. You can see more state data centers within India. And we all sitting here are thriving to see just India being a nation to be the data center hub for APAC region. Coming to power. Yes, you are planning for a green power. We are talking about renewable energy. But somewhere I feel like that if we miss the pace in the next 5 years, I think the game is lost. For all of us, running for these 5 years is very, very important. It will take some time for all these things to be implemented. Straightforward, why can't we pass on a message to all the state where the power is getting developed to allow us to buy power at the production cost? At the production cost. We want to move very fast. Number 3, an equilibrium immediately has to be built between global cloud service and data center providers as well as India. Unless and until that is not done, the essence of Digital Bharat and Atmanirbhar Bharat is not there. Today, in any government tenders, the EMD money is so high that I think half of data centers providers not even can think of representing on those tenders. An opportunity is lost for us. Please look into that. The price prospects which has been brought in by the global service providers, we cannot fight. We had made huge investments in the market to build a mammoth data center. We cannot give that cost. And India being a cost-sensitive country, there should be an immediate equilibrium built between global service providers as well as Indian service providers. So these are my few things which I wanted to share with you. Thank you so much, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Raj Krishnan, representing Upcenter Technologies. We are a cloud service provider based out of Chennai, Tamil Nadu. So I would like to briefly touch upon two major points. As you have mentioned on the data center policy, if you could also bifurcate what we can do from the cloud platform wise, right? We are doing innovations in the cloud, like you mentioned, IT and non-IT on the data center. From the cloud side, can we also include the platform or any indigenous solutions that we are working on so that can be incorporated in the cloud point of view, and that will help a lot of startups like us to compete in the global as well as in the national scale. That's one point that I want to mention. And also to the other point on the cross-pollination between the cloud service providers, we already been working on the solution, and we have at the mature level to seamlessly translate between one CSP to other. And that can also be incorporated in the policy. So that would be helpful and boost a lot of startups who's working on innovative products with very less money to spend on R&D, and to incentivize the startups who work on the specific indigenous platforms and solutions. That would be helpful. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Sarul Silva Thomas. I am from Brisk Infosec. We are the cybersecurity company, and we are 5 years old cybersecurity company. We are providing a lot of services respect of the cloud security as well. So after seeing the policy, so first of all, I want to thank everyone. So here everyone is available, like a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 company is also available. So that's really a great thing to get the vision of their self about this specific policy. It is really came very well. And when I have reviewed the policy about the security, a word is available in only one place, but you have clearly defined, like if we are proposing in the cloud, in the sense that is a secure cloud, that the word you have mentioned. Thank you so much for that. And when I'm seeing the specific framework, I want to share few thoughts. First one is, when it's coming to cloud policy, when you are making it as a policy, try to create one kind of separate governance body under the MIT with a provision like GEM kind of portal for only specialized for the what are the SaaS related services also available, and the local data centers also available. It would be nice to have those kind of portals in our Indian platform. That would be really great. So Indian can easily identify, okay, who is the local provider, what is the best cost we can get it, and we can go with the same kind of service. And second, some of the bad thought available in every company, like India is the best company to provide the service for outside of the organization. Because if we provide the service to outside of organization, we no need to charge them GST. But for our local body and local friends, we need to charge GST. So because if we are going to continue the same kind of model when we are coming into this cloud environment, again, our tariff is really high, and we are actually paying 25 to 30% extra compared to the global competitors. So you please revisit how we can make it a possible way. And third thing is related to renewable energy. We do understand India is completely struggling a lot respective of the innovation and research fund. But at the same time, there are good products and good outcome is coming along. So it would be nice to immediately tie up with institutions like IIT, government and non-government or colleges. We can directly provide the project like how to create a green data center, whatever the way is available. It may be the underwater data center, submarine data center, and the windmill on the seaside, and create the data center. Those kind of direct project instead of the concept. We can give them a direct project. We can try to get their ideas. We can fund it, and once the idea is success in the sense, we can start adopting so that we can cut down a lot of cost respective of setting up the data center. So the final point is, respective of India, whenever we are going for the bidding or something, and there is one specific clause, which is like the lowest quote will win the project. So most of the time we could see that like, if it is the lowest quote, the government need to rethink whether it is possible to execute that project within this cost by any of the company or not. That need to be revisited. So when you are deriving the project, when you are giving the RFP, internally you can have some margin like, okay, this specific project will definitely cost this much, then only they can provide the better service. Otherwise, you will go with the under services. Sometimes they will not provide the service, whatever the efforts you have given for conducting the RFP, communicating with the people, inviting every people, and so much time and so much money is really waste. So try to have that ballpark margin. So that would be help us to scale in the next level, especially to this data center itself. Thank you so much for the opportunity, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you just elaborate on this procurement aspect? In the GEM, already we have the cloud services category, and it is continuously being revised with MIT's advice and inputs. So what is it that...
related to the bidding, I just want to highlight one of my experience. So sorry to mention the brand name. So BHEL, couple of months back, sorry, couple of years back, we have gone for the bidding. It is like cybersecurity audit for the entire India level of institution, and that you know how big is a BHEL and how important is the security, because China and everyone is targeting us. So when the entire BHEL, we have to provide the cybersecurity service with 3 years of commitment. For that, they have hired the third party bidders, and they have conducted the bidding and all for almost 2 months. And when the day of bidding came, they told it's a reverse bidding, and we thought, okay, it is going to be the reasonable amount. But you just think that the entire 3 years of security audit for the all over India level BHEL, inclusive of their application and infrastructure, IP address and everything, just sold for 3.5 lakhs. How it is possible? So they simply mention Like this is actually a reverse bidding. This is the kind of form and law is already available. Sure, sir. We'll definitely share those information also to your email. Thank you.
I think I would request the participants to kindly be brief so that because time is important for everyone. So.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yasir and I represent Cybersecurity Works. We are a certain panel organization and also we are a CNA. We are the only CNA in the entire country where we do have the authority to name a specific vulnerability in the world, and we are approved by the Homeland Security, US. We have seen a drastic change in the entire cybersecurity infrastructure at this point of time in the country. And one suggestion, what we have from our end is at this point of time where we have a mindset in terms of compliance, we are doing a security audit just for the sake of getting compliant and have an authorization to host the site in the data center. But whereas when we compare the first world countries and how the entire infrastructure is changing at this point of time, if you could focus more on a cadence, a continuous level of security assessments that's being done on the infrastructure, that will help the organizations to boost up their security posture on an overall level, and that will also in turn have the security companies to grow on a basic level as well from their end. Thank you.
Wait for a few days and just suspense.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister, and good afternoon, dignitaries. I'll really make this crisp. My name is Vipin. I represent Princeton Digital Group in India. Sir, I've got 3 points to make. One is a new one, and two are emphasis on what some of my colleagues have also said earlier. So we build, own, and operate data centers across Asia Pacific. So the first one that I want to make is that various states have got certain policies with regards to the land usage. So for example, if you buy a 5-acre or a 10-acre plot, and some of these policies are regarding what is the maximum ground coverage you can use, or you have to give some reserved green area. Sir, if you buy a 7, 8, 10-acre plot, every square meter in that plot is very essential for us because there are many services which directly go on ground. It could be the building footprint itself, HST yard, a DG building, a substation, and so on. So our request was that if this kind of a requirement can be excluded specifically for data centers, that's one. Sir, in the worst case scenario, because sir, every piece of land inside that footprint is important for us. We can even buy a similar size of land in other part of the city or other part of the state and submit it to the state. It's just that giving something there is very difficult. And at times, there are additional nuances of making sure that the area is such that it can be externally accessed. And data center is a very secure facility. So that's one point which could probably be a part of the building code that we are proposing. So the two other points where I really want to emphasize, and some of my colleagues have mentioned this in the past, I'll take a quick one. So one is with regards to size of the captive power setup that we can set off campus. Currently, there are certain artificial limitations so that we are unable to use 100% of the capacity. So if there is no such limitation, along with the 1-month banking facility that Mr. Sinha recommended earlier, that would be awesome to have. And the last one, sir, is with regards to the PUE. So when our customers also buy data centers, they start using it over a period of time. I've been in this industry for over a decade. It takes 5-6 years for a data center to stabilize. So one is, if we are looking at PUE measurements on actuals, 1.6 is fairly aggressive a number considering Indian temperate climate. So if you could look at that number and reclassify as 1.6 to be the target PUE, those are the 3 things, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, good afternoon, Honorable Minister and all the dignitaries, and good afternoon, colleagues from the industry. I'm Mahesh. I represent Entity Global Data Centers, and I have a couple of observations here, and this comes from 20 years of building, operating data centers, and some of them may look a bit magnanimous, but I would like to please share my knowledge, whatever I have. One thing is that I'm happy to know that there are these parks and incentives and infra planned pan-India. Right now, if I currently address what's the challenge we face in terms of the supply chain is the semiconductor industry has put us into kind of strong logistic challenges of not getting the non-IT equipment on time. I think when we look at reaching those kind of megawatts and investments, I know it's out of the purview of this scheme, but I would like you guys to, take that message back to establish those kind of support industries as well. Believe me, the amount of the power non-IT infra we will require is humongous. And I don't think as a country we are geared up to service that. The second biggest challenge, believe it or not, is human resource. While we have a big population, the training is one part. Again, is a message, generally, which I would like to share, because these are certain things we are facing because we are expanding very fast pan-India, and these are the two immediate challenges we are facing. So I can imagine at that rate what we will face as a country, right? One particular point I would request to relook or maybe reword is the inclusion of the tier 3/rated 3 in the prerequisites. And where I'm coming from is the very fact that both of these certifications come from bodies outside India, right? They may not be necessarily aligned with India conditions, India way of operations, India operational cultures, I would say, in general, the level of maturity or the level of trainings available. There are multiple ways of making sure that the data centers are compliant with that. One could be if there is enough megawatts of and enough years of operation, probably a self-certification should be good enough. Or maybe we can think of creating some certification body under CII or a similar, so that it can be obtained locally. So that's one humble request here, sir. That's about it. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister and other dignitaries. So myself, Sunil Gupta, a serial entrepreneur and a top 10 AI personalities in India by Bloomberg. So we are presently running a blockchain-based platform which is being used for privacy-compliant data sharing amongst enterprises. And among top 6 banks, among top 10 banks, 6 banks uses our platform for that matter. We would like to contribute on the innovation part. First part is, does the data center, the cloud policy is inclusive of blockchain technology as an infra, which is obviously leverages security and optimize the data storage. That is one part. And it is also in accordance with the national strategy of blockchain by MITI and the smart data governance. So that's one question we have. Second part is that since we are, have entered into the era of IoT devices and the capacity planning at, all the data centers and other things, is there a technology around it in terms of innovation, or can we use a blockchain technology for that particular matter? Also, does IPFS storage based is being leveraged with this particular cloud policy altogether? The fourth important point is that many of the PSUs and PSBs does not still have a cloud policy. And while serving with them, it as a technology service provider, managing their key infrastructure, it creates a lot of hassle for us on that particular front. And in order to have a ready digital, when we talk about digital banking and other solution, it creates a lot of hurdles in terms of uptime and other part of the solutions. One more important point I would like to raise, we as a PaaS platform provider, we always promises or give a SLA of 99.999% to our customers, which means half an hour outage in the entire year. Many of the data centers have a more outage than that. So can there be a way where, let's say, it directly affects 10% of our revenue, which is being promised as an incentive for all the customers itself? Can this be correlated with the data center outage as an incentivization for the people who have been using their cloud storage or the cloud infrastructure altogether? So that is one important point. Also, I would like to raise a point. We talked about green data centers. We talked about how we can have a backup power storage. There has been a technology around gravity-based alternative renewable energy. Can this be leveraged with this as a power backup storage altogether. So these all are my points to contribute. Would be happy to have a discussion on that further.
Silly point. Why don't you write a note and send it? Okay. Government will compensate. Yeah. On the should be some framework of modern SLA agreement, data center, something like that. Yes, yes. That is a good idea to explore. SLA agreement. Yes. As part of the contract. Yes. This government digitizing, writing a policy that will accelerate the digitization of all the else that you had. I think one point that you made is a good point. So it's something that we have overlooked and we should do. The harmonizing the cloud policy and the national blockchain policy. Yes, that is a good point that we have not, we didn't do that. That's also.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for this opportunity for allowing us to participate in this process. My name is Vikram, and I'm the public policy lead for regulated industries for Amazon Web Services. There's been a lot said by my industry colleagues on establishing data centers, so I don't think I'll repeat that. But what I'll focus on is the human element that you sort of mentioned in your address with regards to capacity building. There are studies that show that the shortfall of cloud professionals will be in lakhs by around 2025. And the focus should not be on simply checklisting when it comes to training. It should actually be increasing employability through targeted programs. And on this, sort of the guidance and support of the ministry will actually give this further impetus. Because I think that it can then address so many of the misconceptions that exist on cloud, be it on how to inform policies on multi-cloud or vendor lock-in. Because multi-cloud in itself is also fraught with many risks. Because by its very definition, it'll be a lowest common denominator approach. And that with itself also brings risks. When it comes to vendor lock-in, it's important to also note that, again, misconceptions exist. Because say, for example, an AWS or other sort of hyperscalers, we build our services on open standards. And these are the same standards that allow people to migrate to the cloud, but also allow them to migrate out of the cloud. So again, that focus on open standards could be one way to mitigate some of these misconceptions. So again, just training, and I think that capacity building will inform some of these other decisions.
Misconception, I don't know, but like I said, I think when the gentleman from Oracle was speaking, if you have any ideas on adding to the cloud policy on portability, interoperability, migration in and out of the cloud from a citizen or consumer's point of view, feel free to give that to us. And you both may not be the right people to ask you about consumer rights, but somebody else should give us those suggestions. Talk on the skilling part. I just want to suggest this to industry generally. If you can suggest, instead of leaving it at this high level and say we need skills, this government has done a lot for skilling. Yeah, the last 6 years, skilled 50 million Indians in different countries. But we are willing to leverage our network of engineering colleges, universities, to deliver industry-specific trained workers. But if somebody not take the lead and say, this is the kind of coursework, this is the kind of, and if you engage with the Skill India Ministry, of whom I am a part of as well, and you can route it through the ministry here, we are happy to work with you and evolve these skilling programs. And somebody else mentioned, I think it was the cybersecurity space as well. So these are all areas we are willing to do. We're very flexible. We are willing to put in our own capital, give you access to our network of institutions, including digital skilling. We have a big program in NASCOM on Future Skills Prime. That is the right place to do data center skills and cloud skills and cybersecurity skills. So if you have real ideas and real
of course, sir, we do have a series of programs which we will.
We'll wait for that.
Good afternoon, Mananda. Thanks to MIT and Ministry for this wonderful occasion. I'm Lata, representing ITI Limited. So we are there in IT, data center business for the past 12 years. And recently, we are into cloud also. Of course, we have expanded our capacity to additional 1,000 racks capacity recently. Our concern is, sir, actually, we have to get business for the expanded data center. In fact, we have submitted separate letters and our request to ministry as well. And I have to thank in this occasion to Madam Uma Chauhan. And we have got empaneled as MeitY last year, CSP. And our special requests are actually, as some of our colleague indicated, the EMD is very high in some cases of tender. Like, see, you can understand in government, it's how difficult to get the approvals, and it is very short term also. The tender is sometimes 1 week or less than 1 week, also 3-4 days tenders also I have noticed. So within 3-4 days, it's very difficult to get the EMDs approved and submit the tender. That is one of our concern. And in fact, if say as a ITI, we have lands in across the country in many places. So if this data center policies helps us, we can also set up a data center DR site, because at present we do not have a DR, only DC in a same place. Of course, we have some near DR concept. So we can set up a DR or even data center park also we can go for if government supports. That is already we have submitted our request to this one, sir. And one more request in this occasion, like instead of like state data centers are going for because most of the state data centers are full. Like Kerala, we came to know Kerala data center is full. So instead of building their own data center, they can consider IT data center as additional capacity. So those things also we have requested, sir. Thank you.
My suggestion is that you please meet with, of course, Umaji is here and Dr. Ayuraj Kumar is here. NIC, first of all, the government of India's requirement of the cloud is going to be exponentially going up in the next 3 years. NIC is expanding its own cloud. My suggestion is, this is again free advice, I won't charge you for it. My suggestion is please reach out to NIC and the ministry and work in strategic collaboration so that the market part of it or the customer part of it, you don't struggle on your own. You work in tandem with NIC. I think that is a doable proposition. Because the government, whether it's state government or central government, they are going to increasingly require more and more capacity. And instead of giving business to AWS, you give it to, government should give it to ITI.
We have, I think, some 1 or 2 discussions already held. So we are waiting for their confirmation. Yeah. Sure, sir. Thank you.
Sir, now we have concluded a discussion from different representatives, and we have our government colleagues, sir. We will hear from them later. So as per the scheme of things, now I can request representative of NASSCOM and ASSOCHAM, since individually they have after. So since they have already mentioned their views as an individual representative of their company also, if there is anything specific to add, then they can say. So I'll request the representative of NASSCOM first.
Good afternoon, sir. Honorable Minister, all the respected and distinguished members on the dais, on the hybrid meeting, and press, industry colleagues. First of all, I think I will not take much time. I think most of the industry colleagues have covered most of the points, and I will not repeat. But I think it's important and pertinent that we start on a very positive note and saying that I think there can't be a better time than this, given that the kind of transformation we are having around us, and I think there's a huge opportunity. And I think, and the best part is that we've just talked about how the industry has grown, and the growth of the industry, what we're talking for FY 2022, which is about 15.5%, is probably the highest in the last 1 decade that we have seen. And it can't be a better time than this if we're talking about a policy like this, a policy about migration to cloud and newer technologies. But from a slightly stepping back and looking at this, I think I must say that we are extremely thankful to the ministry, because when these discussions started some time back and various industry consultations were done, and I know that there was also a data center task force which was which was created, most of it or probably all of it has already been incorporated, and it's extremely kind of the ministry to actually again come back and say what more can we do to make it absolutely industry friendly. So that's a great step and a great point of progress. I just want 2 points, sir, I think at the cost of reiteration. One is everybody talked about renewable energy, and doing more on that front will be definitely a great step, especially with the whole carbon neutral by 2070 that we're talking about. This will go a long way in that step. The second piece is about the whole making the whole process about calling the industry about a continuous industry status, where we've all talked about essential services, maintenance, and so on and so forth, the ESMA Act. But I think continuous industry status does make a big difference and does help the industry in a large way, given that this industry needs to work 24/7/365, and there is no compromise on that. So these are two things that I will leave with you. And the last point that, sir, you alluded to on the skill. Yes, we're doing a lot of work, and you talked about Future Skills Prime. We'll be glad to know we'll be happy to kind of learn from the esteemed members here. What is that we need to do as NASSCOM to incorporate that as part of our ongoing program? We're happy to add that. My colleague Jay Kumar, who has been on many of these discussions, is here with me. He leads the policy piece on the data center. He's been working closely with the ministry. He's also with me. He can reach out to either of us, and we're happy to take this forward. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Gupta ji.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I'm speaking on behalf of SOCHAM. Sir, all the members of data center industry have given their views and feedback on the strategy and on the specific points. So I will not elaborate further on that, sir. I just want you to say one thing, sir. You must have observed, as an industry, we have not spoken even a single word on demand generation. That please help us generate demand. Please help us, all that. The demand is so much. We are only saying, how do we meet that demand? So that is a great problem to solve. I think we should have more and more of such problems. And obviously, till the time we have the passion to and all the result to close it, I'm sure we'll be able to close it. So demand is not an issue, sir. So just wanted to give a statistics. I think internet has entered into our life just in last 25 years. We don't recognize that. Data center also has entered into our life just 20 years back. From a time when we used to create a 100 rack data center in 2000 and used to feel like 4 years to sell that. Even till 2014, sir, we are the industry were just 200 megawatts. Because of multiple tailwind, because of multiple driving factors, we already have reached 450. So while we are having a lot of consultation, we are demanding more and more and more from the government. I think because of many efforts by everybody, the industry has already become almost 2 times or more than that in the last 5 years itself. And we are now talking about possibly making it 6 times, 7 times, sir. One more data figure, sir. With around 450 megawatt of data center today in India, with 140 crore of population, we are 0.32 megawatt per million of population. Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan are 7 times, sir, on this number. China is 3 times. Europe is 17 times. And US is 39 times, sir. So if we all believe that in India as a consumer, we are all like digital savvy, we are English speaking, we all like consume smartphones like anything. As professionals in our companies, we are consuming digital all the time. COVID has just accelerated that. So there is no reason to believe that India also should not have the same data center infrastructure which these countries have, because all the tailwinds are there. So the point I'm trying to say, sir, I think we are talking about policies for last 2 years, sir, in various forums, state government forums, METI forums, and many forums. What we need is execution now. From the central government, from METI, from state government, from local municipalities, and obviously you are the anchor for getting it across India. We just want execution now, sir. And we understand even now we talk, we will give many inputs. And if we take maybe another 1 year to execute that input, incorporate that, we may again not move forward. So I would say, even if policy is 70% taking concerns of everybody, let's just go and execute it. I'm sure it is not a static phenomena. You will keep on having consultation, as you're saying, sir. You're so digitally savvy as this current government, sir. I'm sure you'll keep on having more policy, discussion. We can improve the policy later. But whatever we have discussed, whatever we all jointly agree that this is something to be done, let's just go and execute, sir. That's our request, sir, as a body, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sir, we have not taken requests from online speakers representatives who were there because time is not permitting us. Yes, sir.
Sir, we would like to make a point here actually, that since we are talking to multiple data center players today, so ultimately they also target to populate their racks and ultimately with servers and all. So we would request to have more, either a forum built or more interactive session with these data center players where we can actually share details about what all advancement we are doing at the server development level and what all options we are doing which are getting produced in India currently. So I'm sure that along with the solutions we are serving, along with making in India servers, we are sure that we can help them understand what all is available in India right now, because then only this policy can leave a benefit for government of India or in the larger interest.
Yes.
This policy will be finalized in the next 2 to 3 weeks time. So isme if you are worried about execution, you will have to keep pace with us. We are running fast. We are very committed to that. And this is a government that is totally focused on that and doing so in partnership with states. So we know what we have to do. We just need to make sure that you are clear. I don't believe this theory that let us go with any policy and then we will make it up as we go along. I don't come from that school of thought. I like to make sure that we do rigorous homework and get the policy right, if not 100%, at least 99% right from the get-go. So ये हमारा approach है, and this is how we are doing. So on the execution side, don't worry about us executing. It is really for those who are wanting to invest here to invest and move forward. And there is this point about engaging with the state governments, and we will now ask Mr. Mittal to speak. And other state governments to speak. But that is something that we will keep advocating to state governments that the next 1 year is critical.
So before, and now I request all online representatives who are attending this meeting, this consultation process, to submit their suggestion in written form. So we are very sorry that we could not reach out to them for representing their views. So we have heard we have heard all representatives here, and the one point was very clear that the state government role in the setting of data center is very, very important. And the state governments are facing problem on account of clearances. There are multiple of clearances, more than 60, 65. And now the industry people are also fed up with single window clearance system, because single window clearance system is a single window of all departments, not a one-stop solution. So their request is to have one segment in a state government who deals with all kind of clearances. So that is the request from their side. SLA is very important, and if the policies are very clear from state governments that in how many times what kind of clearances can be given, then they will be helpful to for all industry players. Apart from that, power requirement is a very big thing, and many representatives have talked about open access and availability of power at affordable rate, availability of green energy power, so many things. So on these aspects, I'll request Principal Secretary IT, Tamil Nadu. We have Neeraj Mittal sir with us. I'll request him to tell us about the state policy and how the issues of data center and cloud service providers can be addressed through state policies. Sir.
Thank you, Amitesh. Respected Honorable Minister for State of Electronics and IT and Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, sir. Thank you so much. Welcome to Tamil Nadu, sir. On behalf of the state government, I welcome you to the state of Tamil Nadu, sir. My colleagues on the dais, Dr. Rajendra Kumar, Additional Secretary, other colleagues on the dais and off the dais, colleagues online who have joined from other states. It's a great occasion to be here today to be talking to all of you. I see a lot of colleagues whom I've met in my previous avatar. Yota is here, and many other colleagues are here who have actually been part of this revolution in Tamil Nadu, where we have seen a slew of data centers being set up even when there was no policy. And the government realized that there is need for a policy. We have recently come out with a massive, multiple consultations with stakeholders, sir. And I don't know whether any other state has yet a policy, but we have tried to be as progressive as possible. There are, I think, a few states who have come out, essentially addressing the issues which Amitesh just raised. We have approximately roughly 35,000 crores worth of data center investments in pipeline, apart from what we have already had. We already had third largest data center capacity in Tamil Nadu, sir. And we have in pipeline roughly 35,000 crores of investment coming in. My experience with guidance, I used to head guidance before this, which was actually investment facilitation unit for state of Tamil Nadu, sir. And I was facilitating all the investments of data centers which have happened so far. And my impression with all of them, and I'm sure they will attest to that, is that most of them were really looking for not much, except that clearances. Essentially ensuring that they get multiple, at least two separate, electricity supply sources to be able to ensure reliability to their clients. There were a few other things which have been problematic, sir. And there are some things which the central government can do, sir, and I'll flag them for your consideration. There were issues like, putting why kind of, fencing around the walls. There were issues about putting a minimum size of 2-meter wall as a boundary wall. There were issues about, putting, minimum 5% windows in the facade. And these are, I think, I'm assuming these are common across all states, and that's why I'm flagging them to you. Many building code. So, for example, the National Building Code does not allow diesel generators stacking, sir. Now, state of Tamil Nadu has adopted NBC as a mandatory provision. So when I went to the Housing and Urban Development Department, they said it's Government of India which is preventing me from doing it. So we need to actually look at the National Building Code very closely, sir, because there are many, many issues which are problematic there. And the states which have not made it mandatory, they can get away with it. But state like Tamil Nadu, which said that I will adopt the NBC mandatorily, when I go and ask for a relaxation, and that is why I have been only be able to get a relaxation on generator stacking on a case-by-case basis. Because they said we do NBC, we follow. So I think this is something which we need to really do when we do the. There are some other things which have been there in terms of for example, chillers on the roof. That was another thing which they wanted, and we were able to bring it into our policy. They wanted the parking regulations to be relaxed, because our regular parking the rules are meant for multi-storied buildings, where the human density is so high. In data centers, there's hardly any humans. So why should we provide 10 cars per square meter or two-wheeler parkings? Now, these are things which need to be changed in the NBC, so that states have a model to follow on, and they do not. Every state doesn't use its own. Then there is another issue. For example, when you have the diesel stack generator, they want to keep 10 centimeters or 10 inches difference between the main data center, because the vibration from the data center generators gets into the main building. Now, whether it will be treated as a separate building, if it's treated as a separate building, will there be a offset which needs to be provided there? These are the ground level issues, sir, which are really facing, in my experience with. We have tried to address most of them, and I'm happy to take any feedback from colleagues here. If there is something, we are going to issue some clarifications, because some colleagues have asked for some clarifications. We have provided, it's a very progressive policy. We have provided for some land concessions. We have said that they can get dual feeders. We have said that, Tangentco will provide it in priority. And we have said that they will be allowed to do self-certification with labor laws. Of course, the labor laws, sir, I think that is something if Government of India can really do it quickly. The new labor code which has to come out, sir, all the states are actually struggling with the old labor code and the new labor code and the in between interregnum, the uncertainty transition from the old one to the new one. I think if that happens, it will be very useful. We have allowed for some subsidy to MSMEs, sir, so that they can partake in some of the operations of the data centers in terms of maintenance, etc. We have also given some training incentives. We are also saying that we will provide actually a special incentive package for any investment which is more than 2,000 crores or so. So I think our policy has been pretty progressive. I saw the draft policy, sir. It is formula based. I would, it's really a very progressive step where it reduces the, our discretion on what we do and provides for clarity from the investor that what is it that I'm going to get. He can do his financial calculations. In this regard, sir, our Tamil Nadu industrial policy may also be looked at. We have a very elaborate formula there for providing industrial subsidy under the Tamil Nadu industrial policy, which takes care of exports, sunrise sector. So some 4 or 5 different parameters are there, which is exactly formula based. As far as clouds is concerned, sir, we in Tamil Nadu, we have a Tamil Megam cloud since 2016. We have this announcement. This name has been trademarked at that time. We have roughly about 135 applications running on that. We are providing a service of infrastructure and a platform, both as a service using this cloud. We spent a lot of money. I think the cloud is really a great technological revolution which will help us, grow fast. But I think there are issues I think in every state government. I've looked at a couple of other policies where people have said that, if the application and the data is sensitive, then we will not keep it on the cloud. Now, I think there has to be some clarity on this. I think Government of India, if it provides some clarity on what kind of data should be not there on the cloud or everything can be there on the cloud. I think if there is some first mover from the state, from the central government, some analysis, some guidance to the states, it will be useful. Otherwise, every state is doing its own, bit in terms of what can be on the cloud and what cannot be on the cloud. The cloud providers say everything is safe and secure. But there is still, nagging doubts and as to what can be there and what cannot be there. So I think we don't have a policy yet, sir. We don't have a policy yet, sir, in Tamil Nadu, but we are working on it, and we'll be very happy to learn from whatever Government of India brings in this regard, sir. With this few words, sir, I thank all of you for giving me this opportunity, and it's once again welcome you to Tamil Nadu, sir. Thanks for coming.
Now I'll request Uma Chauhan, Madam, our Senior Director, meeting.
Just to mention a few points on the issue that our colleague mentioned here. So with regard to the National Building Code issues, already we are in dialogue with the concerned Ministry and Government of India. And a lot of issues we hope would be sorted out soon, and we would be able to move forward on these issues. Regarding the hosting on cloud, as of now, I mean, there is no restriction from Government of India that the data or the applications cannot be hosted on cloud. Only thing what we have done is that we have segregated the entire cloud into 3 parts, so to say, because you are all from industry, so we realize that. So what we have called in our MeitY policy is a government community cloud. Then we have private cloud, and then we have public cloud. So all of you are aware of that. So there is no restriction from the MeitY policy point of view on departments hosting on the cloud for sensitive applications and for the data that they feel is sensitive. They can choose to host it on a government cloud, which can be owned by the government department. We also have a panel for government community cloud providers. So even that is also an option. So that also can be adopted. So there is clarity on using cloud as a platform for applications and data. So, and the issue that you mentioned, I'm sure we are working with all the stakeholders very closely, and we are interacting with the industry partners in our ministry as well. With the concerned departments, we are in continuous dialogue. And we hope that once this policy comes into effect, then we would be able to move much faster in our overall vision to achieve the target of 2000 megawatt incremental capacity addition. So that's important because we want to reach at least 2500 megawatt in the next 5 years. So that's the vision that we have, and we seek support from everyone in this endeavor.
So with apologies to the representative from state of Karnataka. So we are now concluding this session, and we will discuss it separately, and we'll take your views also. I'm sorry about that. So you came a long way from that state. So I request Uma Chauhan madam to conclude and summarize and offer a vote of thanks.
I think it was a very fruitful discussions where a lot of good inputs were received from the data center developers, data center operators, cloud service providers and software service providers, and many other areas like, a lot of other companies who are working in the cybersecurity area and other areas of information technology. I think it was a good mix of the participant and it has really benefited us. And it won't be possible to sum up all the inputs, but we have made a good note of this. And some of the very good important points which have come out of this discussion is we have to take a view on edge data centers. Time taken in getting the clearances from the states will have to be taken up, in a phased manner. Maybe SLA based clearances like some of the states are still doing. Then backup power issues and guidelines and issues of SaaS providers, security solution providers, harmonization in the state policies and our central policy, which is the proposed one. And I assure you that whatever inputs have been given by the industry players today, we will discuss it internally and we'll come up with the best possible solution to support all the industry, data center and cloud players and the software players also. Now it's the time to give the vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank our Minister of State for Electronics and IT and Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Shri Rajiv Chandrasekhar ji, for sparing his valuable time for this consultation and guide us in this journey. On behalf of Ministry of Electronics and IT, I express my sincere thanks to all the data center players, cloud service providers, industry players, and other software development agencies, domestic manufacturing players, more importantly, the startups for participation in this event, both in person and through VC. The valuable inputs that we have received today will help MIT in reshaping the data center and cloud policy in a very big way. My thanks are also due to the IT secretaries from Tamil Nadu, Sir Shri Neeraj Mittal, Telangana, Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, who are on VC, for joining us. States have to play a big role in implementation of the central policy and their own policy to make this industry, to make them work in a cohesive manner and help us in the support of Digital India. I also express my sincere thanks to DG STPI, and his team for organizing this event in a short period. I also thank our additional secretary, Shri Dr. Rajendra Kumar, our joint secretary, Shri Amitesh Kumar Sinha, mighty team, Shri Sanjay Goyal and Shri Vikram Sharma, who have arranged this event on such a short notice and are supporting all of us in this event. Thank you so much, sir.
Now I'm right.
Ram, did you? They didn't know what to clear. మినిట్స్లో పంట పండుతుంది మాటలు Very